WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
How does Indiana State respond here?
To think it's going to be Avila with some 5-out action. Let him create.
Instead, it's Swope from 3. Oh, he's got it! And the Sycamores will win their 9th consecutive game to improve to 10-1 on the season.
McCullers back in, and he misses a long jump shot. Off the rim, Khalil Ware with a rebound, and Mackenzie Abaco pulls up for a long 3. Yes! McCuller throws it into Dickinson, hook shot good. And Kansas has got their first lead of the game. Inbound comes from Malik. It goes to Gabe Cups. He'll force it up the floor. Gabe forces up a long 3. It does not go, and that's the contest. And Kansas will walk out of Assembly Hall with a victory.
Lawyer, another deep ball. Another hit! Fletcher Lawyer making it rain in Indianapolis. And the Purdue fans can feel it. Love, get it in, put it up, and that'll do it. For the first time in 23 years, the Purdue Boilermakers have knocked off the #1 team in the country. Down goes Arizona. Purdue wins it 92-84 in Indianapolis.
Here's an RPO in the pocket. The Colts bring pressure, and they get to him. It's a sack for Grover Stewart. Grover with his first sack of the season. Harris is the back. Trubisky under center. Unbalanced line to the right side. Quarterback sneaky, lost the ball. It's picked up by Harris, and Harris scurries across the goal line for a touchdown. But do we have a penalty?
The ruling on the field is changed to a touchdown.
He got it over, just got it over. Rigoberto Sanchez gets his right foot into it. It's blocked. It's blocked. It's available inside the 5. The Steelers jump on it, and they recover it at the 1-yard line. Trubisky out of the gun, ball on the right hash. Harris the back to the right side. Trubisky going to throw to the left. In the flat, that's a catch and a touchdown. Another RPO looking left is Minshew. Floats it left side to Moss. Moss the 10. He's at the 5, angling for the pylon. We got a flag at the end of the play. It's a horse collar penalty on the tackle supplied by Michael Walker, the linebacker. And the Colts are on the board. Trubisky rolling to the right. Setting up, taking a shot downfield. The ball is fluttering in the air, and it's picked off by the Colts. It's Nick Frost. Minshew in the pocket. Here comes the pressure. Stands in there, throws upfield, caught. There's the 5. It's a touchdown for the Colts. This time they get in, and it's DJ Montgomery. Trey Sermon, the back left of Gardner Minshew, drops the throw on first down. Over the middle, zips it, caught it, and it's a touchdown. Mo Alley Cox. Colts 30, Steelers 13.
Excited for the guys, putting in the work, the weekly preparation that they did, and then going out and executing it, on Saturday.
Another and 1 for Carl Anthony Towns. He now has 35.
The Timberwolves have defeated the Pacers. The final score is the Minnesota Timberwolves 127, Pacers 109.
This is an epic trip we've been on. I mean, we've experienced things that no other team has ever experienced. We went through really an epic 24 hours.
Great job, Mark Dykton, on this Monday, hanging out with you. It's the wake-up call right here on The Fan, as always, broadcasting live from the DriveHubler.com studios. KB, a good morning to you. Mark, a good morning to you as well. A fun weekend, a lot of good happening this weekend, a little bit of bad, and we'll talk about everything. No doubt we'll lead off with the Colts. Hoosiers losers, Purdue winners there in Cambridge over Arizona, and yuck to the Pacers. Not a good weekend for Rick Carlisle and his squad, but a good morning to you. Monday morning, we sit here inching closer to Christmas, fellas. How are we doing?
Good Monday morning, Mark Dykton. Yes, terrific there on the opening montage. So much to recap from, one of the busier sports days you're ever going to see here in our state and our city. And late last night, Andy, I think for really the second time in the last few weeks, and large part and due to the Colts winning now, 5 of 6, but also due to what's happening in Jacksonville, we wake up on this Monday morning and think there might be multiple pathways into the playoffs for the Indianapolis Colts here in 2023. Jacksonville loses Trevor Lawrence in concussion protocol. So a lot to get to on that end. Louisville wedding treated you well?
Oh, boy, I tell you, it was Saturday sports-wise, Saturday party-wise for your boy here. No doubt it took an entire day, Sunday, sitting back with the young man, with the young boy, with the son, and watching some football and not doing anything and just sitting there and recovering.
Now,
yes.
are we talking, not to get too personal, but was this the first parenting day treating a hangover, potentially?
It was
a slight headache?
Maybe a slight headache,
Okay.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit. So, and he was unhappy for about half the day. Of course, you knew
Those
that was
tend
going to happen. Yeah,
he can just sense
perfect
your
timing.
vulnerability.
Perfect
there.
timing. So,
I guess sensing vulnerability. I guess that's what the Colts did in the second half to the Steelers.
How great was
on
that
Saturday?
Just for me, watching the Steelers just get backup running backs pounded down their throat, and then to watch, and I know it's bad for us here, but to watch Mike Vrabel walk in with the Bum Phillips cowboy hat and just not be able to protect his rookie quarterback, and then Jacksonville last night, Wolf from Jacksonville. My goodness. You know I've said they were frauds, but they're in serious trouble here.
And again, I think the
Serious
Lawrence
trouble.
concussion protocol is kind of the cherry on top. Injuries really starting to pile up for them. But let's go back to Saturday. You know, Andy, I had a change of heart midweek. I did my Wednesday podcast, went with the Colts, and then when we did the show Friday morning, I went with the Steelers. And really the first quarter that you saw on Saturday is why I picked Pittsburgh. Like, I thought T.J. Watt's presence had the ability to wreck the game, and he obviously did that early on. And to me, what is most impressive from what the Colts did on Saturday was the resolve by your offensive line. You know, Gardner Minshew sacked 3 times on the first 3 series of the game. You know, each of those series had a sack. And all of a sudden, everything just kind of flipped, whether you want to point to, I thought Minshew had an outstanding game, by far the best game of the season. He scrambles and extends a play to his right, finds Michael Pittman down the sideline for a 40-yard gain. That's a third down when you're down 13-0. Nick Cross comes off with the big interception.
Biggest play of his career.
On a
easily.
50-50 ball to George Pickens, who's kind of known for coming down with those balls. And then outside of that, it was just the bully ball, methodical bulldozing by your offensive line. It didn't matter if it was Tyler Goodson, Trey Sermon, whoever was behind that group, they just absolutely made the Steelers wilt. And that was the storyline of that second half. We'll have EJ Speed join us here coming up at 9 o'clock. His strip there on the first play of the second half for Pittsburgh's offense, that really, I think, continued to kind of flip it in the Colts' direction. And then it was just a thorough beatdown. And they continue to take care of business. And whether the business looks ugly, bad, hell, they might see another one coming up on Sunday with where the Falcons are at after their pathetic loss to the Panthers yesterday. It doesn't matter because there are a lot of teams out there that aren't doing it, and the Colts are doing it. Incredible resolve after 33 unanswered scored against them to then flip that with 30 unanswered to close it out. And now they sit in pretty nice playoff control. But as I know I'm going to repeat myself, Andy, a lot here over the next week or two, it very well could all come down to Week 18. Like, they should just flex the game now.
Yeah, I mean,
Colts-Texans at Lucas Oil, just flex it now.
It absolutely could, and I bet Mark Dykton that 6-pack of brews, and I was feeling good about the Texans, who are looking pretty pathetic through 3 quarters there in Tennessee.
No C.J. Stroud, though.
Yeah,
no C.J. Stroud.
Before they gave it all away, well, I tell you, it was one of those things on Saturday, KB, where the Colts had to win. You're like, okay, now it's a good position, but you also had to win because you didn't get a lot of help in front of you this weekend.
You got no wild card help on Sunday, but you did get
you got the Broncos,
and you did get the divisional help last night.
Yeah,
so now all of a sudden,
it opens up another avenue.
It does.
You just had the Browns. It looked like they very well could lose. They didn't. The Cincinnati Bengals and Nick Mullins, they did try everything they could on Saturday to lose, and they did lose.
How about
so the Bengals won again, and the Bills just discarding the Dallas Cowboys last night.
How about the end of the 1 o'clock hour? So when you had the Bears and the Browns ending, and you had the Titans and the Texans ending, I would say for the better part of both of those games, it looked like the Bears would get it done and help out the Colts, and it looked like the Titans would get it done and help out the Colts by beating the Texans. And all of a sudden, it flipped with Flacco having the fourth quarter of his life, which is saying something in his career, and then that wild Titans-Texans game, the seesaw back and forth. It looked like it was going to be a tie, I thought, for a while there. Will Levis gets hurt. We'll see about the status for him moving forward. And that is such a big game for the Texans to win. Not to get too nerdy into tiebreakers, but it's this time of year. Andy, if Houston would have lost that game, that would have been a AFC South loss on top of just another loss, another conference loss. That would have really helped out the Colts. So, again, if you want to crunch some of the playoff numbers, which we have, there's an article up on the website. We'll continue to do it. There is I would say, better than decent chance it comes down to Week 18 to you beat Houston in your own building, you're in. You lose to Houston in your own building, you're probably on the couch. That is kind of how it's looking. Even, yes, these 2 weeks
even
matter,
with a couple games, we're looking
Falcons,
forward. Sure.
Raiders don't. I mean, if you win both, you could still lose to Houston and have a coin flip shot. But if you split, or even if you lose both and you beat Houston, you still have an opportunity to make it.
You know, I know resiliency has been a word that's been used. And by the way, you mentioned E.J. Speed going to be joining us coming up at 9 o'clock. Resiliency for the season, right? I mean, I think that's something this team has more than not. It's why the Cincinnati game really not bothered me. It was just one of those games, KB, to where I couldn't believe that they just didn't show up, right? And that was my analysis going into the game on Saturday, was that the team that we saw in Cincinnati is not this team. It's not the we're going to lay down and just get beat up type of team. It doesn't mean they're the best team, but they're not the worst team. And that's kind of what we saw against the Bengals. And so I thought they would bounce back, but when it's 13-0,
Right.
I'm thinking that's son of a Kevin Bowen. Okay? Cuz you picked the Steelers.
Right. TJ Watt had already had 2 sacks.
By the way, we have a University of Indianapolis student, Jace, here. And
correct.
he's in school, and I'm sure Jace has been told, always go with your gut when you're filling out a Scantron. And Kevin Bowen, you did not do that. You did not go with your gut when you filled out your Scantron.
Colts.
I did that 2 weeks ago, and it bit me in the ass, and you kind of did it this week. And so, but I'm sitting there, it's 13-0. TJ Watt's wrecking things. We'll get to the Colts special teams because it hasn't been great now, a couple games in a row. And you're sitting there thinking, wow, are they going to be bullied in back-to-back games by back-to-back NFC or AFC North teams? And then when that switch flipped and that momentum flipped and Minshew started making the plays, I mean, they went backup running backs, 14 straight runs, and got what they wanted. And that offensive line was great. Gardner Minshew was fantastic. The defense was lights out for large parts of that game as well. And you just can't say enough about Shane Steichen out-coaching Mike Tomlin in that sideline. And Tomlin had absolutely no answers. I mean, the Steelers went from big, bad Pittsburgh Steelers in the first quarter plus, whatever it was, to looking hopeless, hapless, kind of dead-in-the-water football team. Did they not? They had the look in their eyes. I mean, you go and you bench Trubisky to try to put Mason Rudolph in at the end of the game.
I called that, by the way.
Yeah, you did. Good luck with that. That's going from one bad option to another, and the Colts got there. All the things they did not do in the Cincinnati game, they did. Offensive line, defensive line, Minshew playing a nice game. And we sit here today, and they really needed that win because a lot of other teams around them won this weekend, and then you get the Jacksonville loss last night, along with the Trevor Lawrence injury. I mean, Lawrence has been beat up this season. I mean, this is, 4 times now we've come in here on a Monday thinking, is he going to play this week? And so he's beat up. The Colts, hey, give them credit. They have put themselves in position now at 8-6 to absolutely be in the playoffs, and it's unbelievable.
You know, Andy, I was just so impressed by the resolve Saturday, down 13-0. You know, I mean, when you're down 2 scores early in the game, and again, Watt has already started to dial it up, and all of a sudden, you know, there's a little bit of like, holy shnikes here. This is 30 straight points. I mean, this Colts team has not been on the ropes like that this season. They have not had a bunch of blowout losses. They haven't had these long losing streaks. That was a time where you kind of could look on the sideline and say, maybe we are a bit of a pretender. And for them to flip that switch, and there's been I would say several Mondays, Andy, that I've come in here after a Colts win and said they've won in spite of Gardner Minshew. They've overcome lackluster play from their quarterback. There's none of that today. They won because of Gardner Minshew.
And his numbers could have been better, by the way.
He certainly had two touchdown drops and probably another one in there as well. He was accurate. He took needed and accurate shots down the field as well. I can't recall one turnover-worthy play he had. You know, inevitably in every game, another team drops an interception or you throw a couple risky balls. I can't think of anything that Minshew had. And again, I'll go back to that play on a 3rd and 5 where it looked like it was going nowhere, down 13-0, and he scrambles and buys time, and right before he throws that ball out of bounds, he tells Michael Pittman, you go long, and he throws it to Pittman for a 40-yard gain. Andy, I'm such a big believer in game flow. If you go 3 and out there, or if you punt there, I should say, all of a sudden, Pittsburgh's got the ball up 2 scores, and they are feeling great about themselves. So Minshew, by far, the best game he has had as a Colt, frankly, one of the better games of his career. That coupled with the offensive line, again, timely playmaking from Nick Cross and EJ Speed in particular. Dayo Dangbo continues to really rev it up here in the second half of the season. Colts are 8-6, and it's crowded, but they are in control. And again, a little bit of a pathway, certainly to the AFC South, particularly with Trevor Lawrence now in concussion protocol. So,
Jacksonville's in trouble.
Jacksonville's
in trouble, man.
At Tampa, Carolina, and Tennessee to end the year. But again, I would say Lawrence in protocol to me is probably the bigger storyline exiting last night. The schedule does look, those last 2 weeks, a little bit manageable. But if they lose one and either the Colts or Texans win out, they would win the AFC South. Tons and tons to get to on this Monday morning. The Indiana Pacers have lost 3 straight. Friday night was absolutely pathetic in the nation's capital. Tyrese Halliburton dealing with a knee contusion. He is questionable for tonight. That is Paul George and the Clippers starting a East Coast trip, if you will. 7 straight wins for the Clippers. And again, we will see about Halliburton's availability for tonight. And as Andy led off with, and you heard in the opening montage, Purdue, once again, darn impressive on a national stage. Boy, there were moments early on, I'm like, gosh, I wish I didn't have to go dual screen for this. I wish I could just kind of be over at Gamebridge Fieldhouse watching Zach Edey, Fletcher Lawyer, and Braden Smith carry the Boilers to another impressive win. In Indiana,
It's such a missed opportunity for Indiana.
When you have the non-conference that they've had, it's hard to celebrate. Well, first off, Indiana shouldn't celebrate moral victories. Let me just start there. But it's hard to walk away from that and be like, improved play, here we go.
Because I don't get any of that. Yeah, I'm with you.
You just don't have the resume to do that.
You got to win games eventually. Not everything can be a moral victory. We're playing better. Especially the Big Ten. The Big Ten's not good.
For error
and the Big Ten's not good this year.
So much for Indiana.
And Purdue's got the overall number 1 seed already locked up, don't they? Already. I mean, with who they beat, who else could they beat in the non-con? My God.
4 neutral court wins for Purdue over top 12 teams here in the non-conference. Shout out to the Sycamores. I thought about rocking the Larry Legend hat today. Indiana State with another nice win over Ball State to lead off that Indy Classic on Saturday. And Tom Allen reportedly has found a home, so we will share that with you as well. EJ Speed joining us at 9. Tons to get to on this Monday morning. Good Monday morning to you. Thank you for spending it with us. I'm Kevin Bowen. He's Andy Sweeney, Mark Dykton on the 1s and 2s. You're listening to Wake Up Call with KB and Andy, 93.5 107.5 The Fan.
The Pacers are flying high. on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, your morning checkdown reminder coming up at 9 o'clock. EJ Speed going to join us here on the wake-up call. Let's jump into it. 30-13, that's your final from Saturday, late afternoon. Colts over the Steelers. Shane Steichen on his quarterback, Gardner Minshew's great game. 3 touchdown performance on Saturday.
Statistically, maybe, I don't know, what was he? He had 3 touchdowns. What was he? 18 to 28, I believe, for 215 or something. Yeah, he played really good. I mean, he was concise with his reads, his decisions, getting the ball to his hands quick, and making plays, and he just operates at a high level, and it was awesome to see.
Yeah, Minshew was fantastic. Again, a QB rating of 123, had the 3 touchdowns, didn't turn the football over. That's what mattered the most. And he had to do so with some guys who we haven't looked at and seen much of this year. Tyler Goodson, Trey Sermon, DJ Montgomery getting his first touchdown. Here's Minshew postgame on the backups.
Huge, man. They were huge, and I'm happy for all of them, man. Getting an opportunity in this league is not an easy thing, and they made the most of it today. Helped us win. I don't think we would win without them. So, I mean, I think that's just a testament to how they work week in, week out. Like, we've been seeing that, in practice, on scout team, whatever it is. And we've had a lot of confidence in them. So when it was time to roll, we were all ready for it.
What an effort by Shane Steichen, that coaching staff, Andy, to get those guys ready. Because, in game, losing Moss, losing Michael Pittman, Pittsburgh's down to what? I think it was their 4th or 5th safety inside linebacker-wise. They were down to their 4th or 5th inside. It was like the battle of depth. Who's can withstand this more? And Shane Steichen kind of said, watch this. Offensively, we're decimated. Defensively, you're decimated. Watch this. And they were able to put together, again, I think easily the finest effort of the season from Gardner Minshew. And offensive line-wise, we haven't seen, I think, real kind of trench bullying like that in quite some time. Whether it was Goodson or Sermon, it was consistent run production when you need it the most in icing that game away. Next up for the Colts, the Atlanta Falcons. That is coming up this Sunday. That is 1 o'clock. The Falcons just lost to the Panthers.
Boy, they're a miserable team, are they not? The Falcons are a miserable team. I hate to make it sound like, and I know they've won 6 games this year, and they're still in the hunt in the NFC South, but having watched them, they are just a sad football team with the way they're able to lose these games, man. It's unbelievable, is it not?
Speaking of sad, that's what it was watching the Indiana Pacers. I would say Friday night. Saturday was a game I think you kind of expected them to lose back-to-back. Best team in the Western Conference. You throw no Tyrese Halliburton on top of it. Okay, that's a little bit of an expectation. Friday night, Andy,
it's unacceptable.
Inexcusable. They got run by the Wizards. We talk so much about the Pacers and the Bucks, and the Bucks did more of this. Both those teams whined a lot after the game on Wednesday night. Again, I blame Milwaukee more for the antics than anything. You see how Milwaukee responded to all of that? They beat the Pistons, another bad team, by 30.
By 50,
Giannis has got his kid sitting on his lap with 5 minutes to go in the game. That's what the Bucks did. Bobby Portis ejected. What does he do? He's got 30 the next night out.
Giannis passed Kareem for most rebounds in Bucks history. Did he get that basketball?
So the Pacers respond to that by losing to the Washington Wizards. First 3-game losing streak of the season. They've got a trio of $20 million dudes in that starting lineup. None of them are playing at that level. In particular, Buddy Hield and Bruce Brown right now. This is a wake-up call week, certainly for the Pacers. It is home to the Clippers tonight. Again, the Clippers have won 7 straight, and then they've got a back-to-back coming up Wednesday, Thursday. That'll be Hornets here at Memphis. Ja Morant expected to make, I think it's his 2nd game back, I believe. So he will play on Thursday. And then the Magic on Saturday, and we saw what the Magic did to the Pacers earlier this season. So it is a look-in-the-mirror week for Rick Carlisle's Bucks.
All right, college basketball from Saturday. Indiana, another missed opportunity, 75-71. Losers at home to Kansas. Indiana now 7-3 on the season, and they really spoiled KB. Trey Galloway's big day, 28 points.
He was great.
He was fantastic at times, basically carrying the
career
Hoosiers.
Game, really, for him.
But they lose a chance. Had a lead by 8 at halftime. Lead in the second half. Outscored by 12, I should say, in the second half. And then on the positive side, Purdue 92-84. Going to play some sound later on. Matt Painter remembering what used to be the Crossroads Classic. We could play a little bit of that, but he was pretty happy after the game. By the way, we talked about this. That over-under was like 160 and a half. Do you remember us mentioning that on Friday and just in passing thinking, well, they're going to blow right by that, are they not? What are we missing here with Arizona and Purdue? And you saw it, 92-84. Purdue now 10-1 in the season. They beat 4 top 12 teams on a neutral floor. Go ahead and lock Purdue in as the overall number 1 seed, right?
Yeah, and I said it last week, Andy, and again, this is something I think we're going to see more and more of in the coming years. Braden Smith is an All-American caliber guard. I thought it was very fitting. Mrs. Edie was rocking the Braden Smith jersey.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
She gets it as well. 26 for him, 27 for Fletcher Lawyer, 22 for Zach Edie as they beat number 1 Arizona. Again, shout out to the Sycamores of Indiana State, beating Ball State there in the first game over at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Week 15 in the NFL, the Colts didn't really get any wild card help on Sunday. The Browns won a wild one against the Bears. Mark, Darnell Mooney, are we really mad at him, or are we saying it shouldn't come down to a Hail Mary?
It shouldn't come down to a Hail Mary, but also the refs were god-awful. On the first Hail Mary at halftime, Justin Fields not only got late hit, but they charged him with an interception, and the ball clearly hit the ground. So the refs were bad.
He got crushed. It was like 3 seconds after he left
the late hit.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, so not great, but it was also kind of proof that Matt Eberflus and the staff need to get the heave-ho at the end of the season.
And then how about in Nashville? The Texans win without C.J. Stroud. Just a wild ending there. How long was that field goal? 53 or 54?
Did you see Case Keenum? I'm built for this. That boy, Vrabel can't like that. Big bad Vrabel losing to Case Keenum and not able to protect his rookie quarterback all at the same time.
The best news yesterday for the Colts came in the nightcap, though. That was Jacksonville losing to Baltimore. Jacksonville squandered about 19 chances to try and score early in that one. It came back to bite them. And then late in the game, Trevor Lawrence he's in concussion protocol, I should say. He actually played the entire game, but Doug Peterson announced that afterwards. So Andy Sweeney heading into the final 3 weeks of the season. The Colts' playoff chances just north of 50%. Again, not a lot of wild card help, but now you have this path in the AFC South. We'll explain it a little bit more here, certainly today and all week long. But you have multiple avenues now in the final 3 weeks of the season. And again, cannot stress enough how important the Week 18 game, Colts and Texans, will be to the Colts' playoff chances at Lucas Oil Stadium.
As a 6-pack up on the line for me and Mark. So how about that? That's a lot on the line. A lot on. I'm sure the Colts care about such things. Give me one more swoosh. We got big news. Tom Allen, defensive coordinator at Penn State. There you go. It's a good job. Probably making $1.5 million. Being the defensive coordinator,
now,
you're going to win like 9 or 10 games.
He makes the $1.5 million on top of the buyout.
It's a great. I think so. Yeah.
This does not all of a sudden take the buyout, which is what, $15.5 million.
No. It might lessen
that at all.
I don't know. It might lessen it a little bit. We should reach out to Zach Osterman.
Reporting saying it does not lessen the buyout. Again, he did
great
take
for him then.
What was that? A handful of million or $5 million, which obviously is a huge number. To front load more of that buyout money. But yes, he goes to Penn State. Manny Diaz, their defensive coordinator, took the Duke job. I am disappointed to see no Penn State on the schedule next year for Indiana. Didn't we need a Tom Allen, Kurt Signetti meeting at midfield?
He wouldn't know all Signetti's secrets. No one knows Signetti's secrets yet.
How about Donovan McCauley back to IU?
I was surprised by that. Some big-time programs wanted him. I am surprised by him. There you go. There's that NIL money working. That's how you do it in Bloomington. Let's go.
And also Trent Howland had some nice moments late in the season for Indiana from a running back standpoint. He is back after entering and I think actually committing to Minnesota in the transfer portal. All right,
just assuming, by the way, that Tom Allen's first words out of Penn State are going to be...
Yeah, does James Franklin let Tom Allen do his pre- and post-game antics? It is a great question.
Does Penn State snap at all? They snap the fingers? They do the jazz?
It hasn't really worked for them in playing Ohio State at all. So, I mean, not that it really worked for Tom Allen, but I guess there are a few moments where at least they were competitive against Ohio State. So, Tom Allen finding a job here in the offseason. All right, on the other side, back to Saturday and the Colts. What a response after getting down 13-0 to the Steelers. We'll talk about offensively, defensively. Probably have to sneak in a little Matt Gay talk at some point as well. EJ Speed joining us at 9 o'clock. It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Hey, it's JMV later.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, talking about a big weekend here in Indy. A stat to get things going this segment. By the way, EJ Speed will join us coming up at 9 o'clock. Did you happen to see, KB, the stat about yards before contact Saturday with the Colts and Steelers? This to me is an amazing stat, and it's not taking away anything that the running backs did at all.
It's an astonishing number, and it's why I kind of wanted to lead off with the O-line and the response in game and what they did to kind of bulldoze Pittsburgh.
Yeah, 4.15 yards before contact on Saturday for the running backs. And Trey Sermon, Tyler Goodson, especially Goodson, welcome to playing a lot in the NFL. We haven't seen too much of Trey Sermon. It's really been third running back, a couple snaps here or there. But again, 4.15 yards before contact. A great job. And I said to you during the break, listen, I know Colts fans are frustrated with Chris Ballard a lot of the time. I remember, when we started this show here, that was one of the main conversation pieces is how can it be year 7 and you don't have this and you don't have that and you don't have this? And it was a laundry list of issues. And even if you remember, Chris Ballard going into the season, all the Jonathan Taylor stuff, people wanted number 28, right? I mean, that's who everyone's got a jersey of Jonathan Taylor, and that was a big conversation piece. But this season, in a game like Saturday where, let's just say it, the line of scrimmage, the defensive line, the offensive line, and then, you're playing a backup quarterback, you're playing essentially 2, if not 3 at times, backup running backs. DJ Montgomery comes in. He has a touchdown. It looks like he can give you a little something. We do need to talk about Michael Pittman's injury. I mean, it's a massive shot that he took, a dirty shot that he took as well from the Steelers. But, I mean, Saturday was a good day for Chris Ballard, winning the line of scrimmage and winning with guys that haven't played much football for the Colts this season.
Well, the best move Ballard made all offseason was hiring Shane Steichen. I mean, that's where you have to start. And again, a credit to Jim Irsay for allowing Chris Ballard to run the search and to, kind of do things under, his watch. And he's going to be extremely thorough and extremely diligent, interviewed a million candidates and didn't fall into the Irsay trap for Jeff Saturday, running it back. And the hiring of Steichen was exactly what this organization needed on many levels. Quarterback development, I would put atop the list. But, again, I think Shane has an energy and an intelligence to him that's a nice balance that I think this locker room has gravitated towards. Last year, Andy, can you imagine this team in December being down 13-0 in a game and what would happen to them? So I would start there with Ballard. And then to your point about the O-line, I mean, that stat, 4 yards before contact, that is an astronomical number. And go back to last week. Zach Moss, 13 carries, 6 of them for 0 or negative yards. So it was such a flip from last week. And if you're Tyler Goodson and you're Trey Sermon, and you're not used to really any consistent NFL run, I believe that was Tyler Goodson's first NFL carry. Sermon's got a little bit more run. Both these guys obviously played a ton in college. Big Ten fans will certainly remember both of their careers. Goodson at Iowa and Sermon was a third-round pick out of Ohio State. He ran for 330 in the Big Ten title game one year. So they have history, but they don't have history really in the NFL. And if your offensive line can say to both those backs, 2 very different style running backs, hey, before you need to make like a big decision, we'll give you some clean windows, some, turf right in front of you. You don't have to do a whole lot of decision making before Gardner Minshew hands you the football. That is such a welcome thing for those 2 young, inexperienced backs. And when you started to kind of lean on Pittsburgh, man, did you see hands on hips? Did you see guys, yelling at each other? I mean, that is exactly what you want for a team that was coming off back-to-back losses to double-digit loss team. So outstanding by your offensive line, the exact response you needed. And again, a first-quarter response because it wasn't pretty those first couple series. Watt has a sack, and then they get a sack in the second series, and he's got one in the third series. It's like, oh, my God, Gardner Minshew's about to get sacked 10 times.
We think we're going to come in here Monday and talk about how the Colts were pretenders.
Right. And
that they beat 3-4 bad teams in the middle of the year. That was absolutely going to be the lead today and again, after the first quarter of play.
My biggest storyline, Andy, was Watt wrecking the game. I can't think of a Watt play in the final 2.5 quarters. Sure. I mean, you can point to the first quarter, you can point to the first couple series, but in the final 2.5 quarters, I can't recall one play that he made. Heavy attention towards him. Blake Freeland did a nice job, of course. That's exactly the recipe that you needed, and it's learning from in-game early mistakes when you did single-team Watt on that first sack, and learning from, obviously some other edge rushers that have wrecked games earlier this season against you.
Again, you're down 13-0, and like Freeland, he allows a sack, and then he jumps the next play. And like, this is not going to be good in the resiliency to bounce back. 14 consecutive runs there in the fourth quarter. Here's Shane Steichen postgame talking about the dominance on the ground.
It was awesome to see. It just showed that we're capable of running the football whenever we want to. But you got to do it at a high level and execute. Obviously, that's a big part of it. Do you want to do that every week? Heck yeah, you want to do that every week. Does it work out like that every week? No, it doesn't. But obviously, there's a third down run. I think it was 3rd and 4 or whatever it was that we popped there, which was awesome to keep the drive going, and just the resilient effort by the offensive line.
And Andy, when you're dealing with so many skill guys out, or your quarterback obviously is a backup, you need to lean on the group that has the most continuity, has certainly many more of the household names, contracts, et cetera, even without Braden Smith. You still have a ton invested into that O-line. Bernard Ryman said something yesterday I thought was pretty funny. He goes, last week was not fun. Basically exiting Cincinnati, having to watch that film, knowing what they put on film, and then the response that was needed. Certainly that group was outstanding.
It's worth, if you're a Colts fan for a second, and honestly, this is what I was thinking as that game was going on. I mean, Shane Steichen, he talked about it there in that clip, KB. 14 straight runs, and so you know what's coming. Like, it's one of those things where Steichen has tricked other coaches this season, has he not? He's done some things, and you draw up a play, whatever it may be, and the other coach is like, and the other defensive coordinator's like, we got tricked on that one. The second half, in large parts of that fourth quarter, and specifically that drive, and I think it just got him a field goal, right? They threw eventually on that third down. Minshew threw an incompletion. But that was a lineup, and you know that we're going to run the football at you. We know we're going to run the football right into the teeth of that Pittsburgh Steeler front seven, and let's see what you got. And if you're a Colts fan today, especially how the Bengals game went, especially how the last few years have gone, especially, the beginning of the game where it looked like Pittsburgh and T.J. Watt, you mentioned him, and they got some good runs. It looked like they were going to be able to bully the Colts a little bit. For them to flip that and to put the Steelers into submission, that's got to feel really damn good, does it not? Tomlin stood over there and didn't have anything. And the Colts made it to where the Steelers were going to have to kind of check themselves. They had just lost to two bad teams, and you knew that had to be in their mind. I mean, the Steelers were a playoff team here. I mean, they lost to two-win teams at home, and then they go here to Indy on Saturday, and it's like that gut check time for the Steelers, and they didn't have it. And they didn't have it from Mitch Trubisky, who wasn't very good. They didn't have it to those lazy wide receivers of theirs who have all the talent in the world but are lazy. George Pickens is a lazy football player. Maybe somewhere, maybe next year, maybe somewhere he'll be able to figure it out because he's got gobs of talent. And then you pulverize them running 14 straight times, and you put them, big, bad Steeler defense, you put them into submission to where even at the end of the game, KB, they're having to go to Mason Rudolph. I mean, that's no better than Mitch Trubisky. And, listen, they can still rebound, so I guess I'm not putting all the dirt on the grave yet of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I feel like they're done. I feel like they've given up and they've kind of checked out, and they're going to now need to make some changes, not to Tomlin, but offensive philosophy, and you helped do that. That's got to feel good if you're a Colts fan with what you've been through, right? Don't you feel that? Did you feel that on Saturday?
Obviously, think about the history and, the terrible towels they were waving early on in that one. So for you to kind of send them home like that, I know a lot of people have brought up Tomlin taking timeouts late in the game. I honestly, and maybe I'm wrong on this, I didn't look at it as much of a, hey, Shane Steichen, watch this. Like, it's a subtle shot at the Colts or whatever you want to interpret it like that. I look at that as Mike Tomlin calling out his own team, saying, guys, I'm going to take timeouts, and you've got to keep on defending them. Like, I think Tomlin is so fed up with his team right now.
I'm totally with you.
And the childish acts really on both sides of the football, and he's trying to find guys that are going to be there for these final 3 weeks of the season. And he was saying to them, hey, if you guys are going to check out, down 2 scores, less than 2 minutes to go in a game, I don't care. I'm going to still take some timeouts here late. I didn't look at it as, he's saying to the Colts, hey, we're still in this, or we're going to extend the game, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's Tomlin at an absolute loss for what he's got right now with his football team. Obviously, the Zach Moss and Michael Pittman injuries, Andy, those would fall under the, disappointment, negative stuff, however you want to look at it. Michael Pittman seemed to be in good spirits in the locker room afterwards.
Man, he got lit up, man.
One of the more vicious
scary
hits I've seen live. When you slow it down, I'm honestly more worried about like his neck and sternum area. If you really look at it, KZ obviously leads with the crown of his helmet, but he doesn't really hit him helmet to helmet. It's more of like shoulder to the, again, kind of that neck sternum area when you really, really slow it down. Obviously, the fact that Pittman walked away from that, it's just like the hit in Carolina. I mean, I've said it a million times. People are probably tired of it. There is no USC pretty boy in that kid at all. I mean, he is beyond tough. There's a reason why I think internally the Colts absolutely love him. I could not believe that he walked away from that. Again, seemed to be in fine spirits, tweeted after the game, chiming in on social media, et cetera, et cetera. He is in concussion protocol. Every concussion's different. We say it, whenever these things do arise. I guess he gets an extra day if you want to look at a positive from this week, Saturday to a Sunday game. We'll certainly keep an eye on that. And then Zach Moss, I believe it's the same arm as training camp. Had trouble gripping it there. That's why he did not go back in the game. Now, the one positive is, obviously you watched what Goodson and Sermon could do behind a nice offensive line. And Andy, is this the week for Jonathan Taylor?
Well, I mean, if he's going to play again this season, this would be it, right? I mean, this would be the time. He'd be, 3.5
5 weeks was kind of that, realistic timetable.
Wednesday's 3.5 weeks.
Wednesday is 3 weeks.
It's 3 weeks solid. Okay, but
so Sunday would be 3.5 weeks. Again, I do feel like that is an opportunity for Taylor to get back. Certainly, he's got to test it out in practice Thursday and Friday this week. But those obviously 2 big injury items. DJ Montgomery, again, had some really nice moments, but also, had a couple big drops.
I was going to say, how do you
can't ignore?
How do you feel when you finally get into a game and you drop a touchdown? You're DJ Montgomery.
How about the end of the first half?
That's a good throw, too.
That's, I think, another thing we should mention. It's 13-7 there at the end of the first half. Pittsburgh has got an easy pitch and catch on a third down right over the middle. Freiermuth is wide open, and Trubisky looks like Trubisky and misses him. And all of a sudden, the Colts get the ball back, and backup quarterback, just lose your number one wideout. I forget how much time was left. I want to say it was
44 seconds.
44, that was it?
It was 44 seconds, 1st and 10, Indy at the 26-yard line. That's where you hit DJ Montgomery.
So that is looking like, at best, a field goal and probably, a deep field goal shot for Matt Gay. And they hit Montgomery for that 30-yarder on the very first play. And all of a sudden, that drive starts going. They get the pass interference penalty.
Which is why you throw the ball deep to Pierce a couple times a game.
Several shots
for that Pierce. Very play.
You make DBs panic, and they did there. And then all of a sudden, Andy, you've gone from 13-7, Pittsburgh maybe tacks on a field goal. At the very least, they run out the clock. To now you've got the lead going into halftime. That sequence there, it might get lost in the 30 straight points. And again, the bulldozing by the Colts offensive line in the second half. But whether it was Minshew extending that third down play to Pittman, Nick Cross taking a 50-50 ball away from George Pickens, when, again, Pittsburgh was trying to get it back to 2 scores. And then that sequence there at the end of the first half, there were so many moments in the second quarter where you just kind of go back and circle those and think, where did this game turn? Before you got to, hey, Pittsburgh, you're into submission right now, and all the Sermon and Goodson moments.
How did we get to submission?
Right,
exactly.
Those other things in the second quarter, just such critical plays. And again, I will say this a lot on this Monday morning. There's been times, Andy, where I've said you've won in spite of Gardner Minshew, you've overcome him. There was none of that on Saturday. He was a major, major, major reason why you won that football game. Easily the best we've seen from Minshew in a Colts uniform. One of the best games of his career on a variety of levels, no matter where you want to slice it. He was accurate. He took shots down the field. He extended when he needed to. And ultimately, he stayed away from the turnover-worthy plays. You had 3 takeaways. You committed none. And probably the biggest stat to Shane Steichen, 2 penalties all game long while Pittsburgh was getting flag
Yeah,
after
while you
flag
were
after
messing
flag.
Cincinnati. Cincinnati
Right.
penalties were a huge deal. On the other side, something that shocked me that happened during the game on Saturday, EJ Speed joins us coming up at 9 o'clock as well. Victorious Monday here for the Colts.
Don't you think the Colts should just pay Michael Pittman for simply walking off the field? Like, they should just hand him the contract extension just because he got up and walked off the field?
Listen, dude, when he
was shocked he walked off the field.
When he got hit and other players immediately take a knee, you think, oh boy. Like, I thought he was going to be taken out
Tomlin
on
even walked
something.
on the field right away.
Yeah,
like, when the visiting bench kind of reacts like that, that's when you know,
Yeah,
oh my
like
God.
not a stretcher, but I thought he was not going to walk off, that they were going to let him ride a cart back to the locker room, unlike they let Trevor Lawrence do it a couple weeks ago in Jacksonville.
So we'll obviously update you on that. Again, Shane Steichen said yesterday Michael Pittman in pretty good spirits, but is in concussion protocol. It will just be a Wednesday walkthrough, Thursday and Friday practice. Still plenty of time for Michael Pittman to progress through that heading into Sunday. All right, we'll continue the Colts conversation coming up 8 o'clock hour. As Andy said, in an hour, EJ Speed joins us.
The Pacers are flying higher.
and let him create.
Instead, it's Swope from three. Oh, he's got it! And the Sycamores will win their 9th consecutive game to improve to 10-1 on the season.
McCullers back in, and he misses a long jump shot. Off the rim, Khalil Ware with a rebound, and Mackenzie Abaco pulls up for a long three. Yes! McCullers throws it into Dickinson, hook shot good. And Kansas has got their first lead of the game. Inbound comes from Malik. It goes to Gabe Cups. He'll force it up the floor. Gabe forces up a long three. It does not go, and that's the contest. And Kansas will walk out of Assembly Hall with a victory.
Lawyer, another deep ball, another hit. Fletcher Lawyer making it rain in Indianapolis. And the Purdue fans can feel it. Love, get it in, put it up, and that'll do it. For the first time in 23 years, the Purdue Boilermakers have knocked off the #1 team in the country. Down goes Arizona. Purdue wins it 92-84 in Indianapolis.
Here's an RPO in the pocket. The Colts bring pressure, and they get to him. It's a sack for Grover Stewart. Grover with his first sack of the season. Harris is the back. Trubisky under center. Unbalanced line to the right side. Quarterback sneaky, lost the ball. It's picked up by Harris, and Harris scurries across the goal line for a touchdown. But do we have a penalty?
The ruling on the field is changed to a touchdown.
He got it over, just got it over. Rigoberto Sanchez gets his right foot into it. It's blocked. It's blocked. It's available inside the 5. The Steelers jump on it, and they recover it at the 1-yard line. Trubisky out of the gun, ball on the right hash. Harris the back to the right side. Trubisky going to throw to the left. In the flat, that's a catch and a touchdown. Another RPO looking left is Minshew. Floats it left side to Moss. Moss the 10. He's at the 5, angling for the pylon. We got a flag at the end of the play. It's a horse collar penalty on the tackle supplied by Michael Walker, the linebacker. And the Colts are on the board. Trubisky rolling to the right. Setting up, taking a shot downfield. The ball is fluttering in the air, and it's picked off by the Colts. It's Nick Cross. Minshew in the pocket. Here comes the pressure. Stands in there, throws upfield, caught. Here's the 5. It's a touchdown for the Colts. This time they get in, and it's DJ Montgomery. Trey Sermon, the back left of Gardner Minshew, drops the throw on first down. Over in the middle, zips it, caught it, and it's a touchdown. Mo Alley Cox. Colts 30, Steelers 13.
Excited for the guys, putting in the work, the weekly preparation that they did, and then going out and executing it, on Saturday.
Another and one for Carl Anthony Towns. He now has 35.
The Timberwolves have defeated the Pacers. The final score is the Minnesota Timberwolves 127, Pacers 109.
This is an epic trip we've been on. I mean, we've experienced things that no other team has ever experienced. We went through really an epic 24 hours.
Yeah, a lot of good coming from the weekend. There's some bad as well, especially with the Pacers and the Hoosiers. We'll dive into that. Reminder coming up about 8:15 or so, our GOATs of the weekend. We'll have our 5-word headlines back end of the 9 o'clock hour. Reminder as well, EJ Speed going to be joining us as, KB, the Colts might have 4 guys hit double-digit sacks this year. I don't think that would be a crazy stat. We shall see here over the next couple weeks. Colts winners 30-13 on Saturday. We've talked a lot about that, and I teased it, so let me just throw this out there as something that surprised me or shocked me, and this will be very quick, and then we can move on. You ready for this? The Steelers won the toss and took the ball.
I thought the ref misspoke, honestly, when he said that.
And even the guys doing the game, Rich Eisen and Kurt Warner, they're like, they go 3 and out, The first time Trubisky goes back there, he gets sacked, and they go, Kurt Warner's like, why did he take the ball? Why did Mike Tomlin with this offense and this quarterback take the ball?
Like,
and I was thinking, what a great...
Ben and Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown are out there for a second?
Is that the bus back there?
I literally thought the ref had misspoke.
I thought he did too. I'm like, why is he taking the ball here? You play defense. TJ Watt goes out there and you get a sack and you get that possession in the second half, which it worked out great for the Colts. The Colts scored before halftime. We mentioned that on the other side of the break. And then we go into halftime. The Steelers come out. They eventually get a fumble, but that is, out of all the things that surprised me, DJ Montgomery, the 2 running backs, the Steelers laying down like dogs, like a sick dog in the second half. Out of everything, I'm like, does he have confidence in Mitch Trubisky and the running game to go down and score a touchdown? But that was the beginning to what was a pretty good Saturday there in Lucas Oil for sure.
Just a hell of a response by the Colts. You were sitting there at one point, Andy, and 33 unanswered has been scored against you. If you go back to the second half of the Cincinnati game and the start on Saturday, and now the questions are arising. These are teams that are in playoff races with you. You have taken an uptick in competition. Now you're losing Zach Moss. Now you're losing Michael Pittman Jr. I mean, what a foreign feeling for this 2023 version of the Colts, for Shane Steichen. I think for much of this coaching staff, certainly with this team, and yet their response there, late first half, we've talked about the plays, whether it was, again, Minshew extending on that third down to Pittman, Nick Cross making easily the best play of his NFL career, a huge sequence there into the first half, DJ Montgomery bouncing back from that drop in the end zone, and then EJ Speed. We'll have him on in less than an hour, that strip of Najee Harris to start the third quarter. That, I think, put the Colts kind of in full control, and they could play bully ball from there. Just what a difference a year makes. This Monday, Andy, last year, we are talking about
miserable.
The greatest collapse in NFL history in blowing that to the Minnesota Vikings. And, imagining, that team down 13-0 in December versus this team, it's just a total 180. And Shane Steichen is on any Coach of the Year ballot. He is high up on any Coach of the Year ballot. Probably those in Cleveland would make a very strong argument for Kevin Stefanski, and there's a lot of reasons why. Certainly DeMeco Ryans, probably Dan Campbell as well. But again, there is no debating that Shane Steichen should be on that, and what a brilliant first season he's had here.
I think Stefanski, DeMeco Ryans, and Shane Steichen are your 3, are they not? And if you made me choose Coach of the Year right now, that's where I would go, would be to one of those 3 guys. Maybe Campbell. They haven't played as well lately. I mean, I guess you could always say, well, you go with Harbaugh or you go with a team that's won a lot of games. Right. Mike McDaniel's on that list. But to me,
I'd probably
the Texans,
go Stefanski if you were going to make me pick. Again, 4 wins with 4 different quarterbacks. I mean,
Flacco looks great out there.
That is insane.
He's slinging it all over the place.
I saw a stat yesterday. They have 26% of their cap space on injured reserve. 6 of their 9 wins against teams above 500. That's the most in the NFL. I mean, so they're beating great teams, good teams, however you want to label it. Again, they've been decimated by injuries. Again, I think Shane, this is nothing to disparage Shane Steichen. There's 32 coaches out there. Again, I think Shane has been right up there with Stefanski, and Colts fans should be absolutely thrilled with it. And boy, that's just, again, that response, Andy, that was a teetering moment in this season, and such a critical game from a conference standpoint, from a head-to-head standpoint. You look at the standings, and I mean, it's still just a coin flip for the Colts to make the playoffs. If that's a loss, it's
they have
25%
chance. Yeah.
And so to get that win, to do it in the fashion that they did, damn impressive. Really.
They did show early on in the game. Now, I know you were there, so I don't know how much you went back and saw the broadcast, but they did. And, Mark, you can probably attest to this. They were early on. It was 13-0. There were a lot of grown men with the Bumblebee Ben Roethlisberger jerseys on and the terrible towel. There were a lot of those. And then they kept showing sad Colts fan. And it was usually like a woman. They showed sad Colts woman shaking her head in disgust when it was
I'll be honest, early on.
And then grown men that looked like the Bumblebee in the Blind Melon video.
KB, they had so many Bumblebee jerseys in that crowd
Why
at Lucas Oil. I have absolutely no idea.
Those are one of the worst jerseys in sports.
They are the worst jersey in sports, bar none. The early parts of that game, I'm thinking to myself, I wish I was over at Gamebridge. I'm going dual screen. Purdue and Arizona, I can pretty much get to probably 13, 12-minute mark of the first half before the Colts game starts. So was concentrating on that. I'm like, this looks incredible over there. High scoring, fun. Purdue looks great, blah, blah, blah.
Tell them to clear the way. Clear traffic. Kevin Bowen needs to get over here.
He
needs to get over to Gamebridge.
Think about if I could slide over there. It looked like a great atmosphere inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. And again, insert your jokes here about March, but there's no debating this. For the, probably third year in a row, the best non-conference resume belongs to the Purdue Boilermakers.
I know it's crazy, but I just feel like they've already, they're going to win a bunch of games in the Big Ten. They're going to win the Big Ten unless something happens here, multiple injuries, bad play. I just can't see it happening. So they're going to win the Big Ten. They'll do something in the Big Ten tournament. And what they've done in the non-con is by far the best resume. They're the overall number 1 seed, are they not?
Which would mean a likely path of Gamebridge Fieldhouse again, which look at how well Purdue just played offensively in that arena. You don't think you want to be back there?
Yeah, sure.
For the first 2 rounds of the tournament? You don't think Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer have played a lot of games?
I think those guards like it.
In that building? I would think that would be well served for Purdue. And then the Midwest region, you would slide up, I guess, over to I-69 and north. Detroit would be your regional
Beautiful
there.
Detroit.
So from a driving standpoint for the Purdue faithful, right now you're on a path from Indy and Detroit. I said this earlier, Andy. As well as Indiana played, as well as Trey Galloway played, you just aren't in the business to celebrate moral victories considering your non-conference resume. These opportunities do not grow on trees. In your own building, unquestionably one of the best teams in the nation.
With that crowd,
et cetera, et cetera.
Galloway playing the way he played.
The Big Ten does not have those pop up everywhere, especially not this year. I mean, you'll obviously get one with Purdue, but they don't have many of those. And to not be able to finish that one, it's hard for me to sit here on this Monday morning and say, first off, it's Indiana, so celebrating moral victories, no. But more so, it's not like they have enough. They didn't win in Atlanta against Auburn, and so they have a little bit of a non-conference resume to show for. They didn't beat UConn. There's just nothing. They don't have a sniff of an NCAA tournament win in the non-conference schedule. And when the Big Ten right now looks like how it is, there is just so little margin for error for Indiana as they enter the Big Ten. And we've seen it before. I think we fall into the history of college basketball trap of, if you win double-digit games in your conference, you're going to be good. There's many cases of teams recently that have won double-digit games in a power conference, and yet when the non-conference resume looks like it has for Indiana, that's a questionable team come Selection Sunday.
Yeah, and they may not have another tournament team. They definitely don't have another top 25 team until they play Purdue on the 16th of January. Listen, I hate to be just so down on Indiana, but I'm just down on Indiana. I don't view it as any sort of a moral victory on Saturday. I view it as you had an opportunity to get a big win. You had an opportunity to put a great win on your resume that's going to be a great win all year with Kansas, and you didn't do it. And, there's a couple things. Number one, until the very, very end, I mean, it wasn't like Kansas was bombing in a bunch of threes, right? They both made 6 threes in the game. The reason I bring that up, that's been such a talking point. Indiana can't guard the three. They can't make the three. I mean, that really wasn't.
And we said on Friday, this could be a good matchup because Kansas is a little bit more front court oriented.
They're not a great shooting team from there. They made them at the end. And then the other thing, and Indiana fans know this, I haven't heard too much of an excuse over this. I know Mike DeCourcy gave us a little bit of one last week. Xavier Johnson is a fine player, but Xavier Johnson does not cure the ills of this Indiana basketball team. I don't feel that way. I feel like he is a needed player. He is a nice player. It is unfortunate that he's out, but I don't view him as, woe is me. How do we win a game without Xavier Johnson? He's not that type of player. And so Indiana fans, I'm telling you, KB, IU fans, I mean, we're a couple weeks away. If they lose, and then, they got a Rutgers and a Minnesota and a Morehead State. And, they have, very winnable games, especially the next 3 games. And Ohio State is popping up here in a couple weeks. I mean, we're like 1 loss away here to an inferior opponent from Indiana fans being angry at the way this season's playing out. That's my read of the situation.
No action for Purdue until Thursday with Jacksonville. Again, this is kind of your final cupcake week of the season. Indiana will go Morehead State tomorrow at 6:30. Butler will begin Big East play. It'll be Ed Cooley and Georgetown in the building tomorrow. Thad Matta going to join us tomorrow at 9 ahead of the Big East opener for the Bulldogs, and we will give away a 4-pack of tickets to Hinkle today and tomorrow for Butler's first. That's a 6:30 tip, by the way, tomorrow over at Hinkle.
Let me ask you this, and again, EJ Speed going to join us coming up in about 45 minutes. We'll get to our GOATs of the week here in a minute. I just wanted to touch on this. It needs to be brought up. Special teams play early on, not good again for the Colts. You look at what happened.
Not good is putting it lightly.
Yeah,
by the way.
I mean, this is now Cincinnati. It wasn't good. And what's crazy about it, leading up those few games, we've been talking how great the special teams had been. Matt Gay, you're blocking kicks. It really felt like special teams was positive. And what happened on Saturday? You've seen McKenzie kind of benched. Josh Downs now returning punts. And I thought he did a fine job. He kind of almost broke one earlier on in the game. He was frustrated. But you have the blocked punt against you. And now you have Matt Gay, who is making just 78% of his kicks. He's 26 of 33, and that's his worst rate since his rookie season. And so Matt Gay has went from Mr. Dependable, won you the Ravens game, a guy that we've talked about this. You get to 55, 56 yards, you feel like you can play for that because he can make those, 3 of 6 the last 2 games. I don't know. How worried are you? I guess I'll say I don't feel the same about Matt Gay as I did maybe a month and a half ago. That's kind of where I am, but you still got to trot him out there. You still got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not cutting him. No.
Well, I guess I mean more like, can you play for a 55-yard field goal? Now,
right.
Is that something you feel comfortable about?
Slam dunk is probably a fair way to put it. Boy, he just shanked that one from 56 early in the game. That was Vanderjack the other way, fittingly against Pittsburgh. And at that point, Andy, I noted, okay, his 3 misses in a row now, all 3 of those to the left. And then he kicks the extra point. I think it was his next kick. That thing barely went in inside the left upright. Now, his miss there in the fourth quarter off the right upright. So now I'm thinking to myself, oh, boy, is he in his head a little bit?
He's overcompensating. He is. Well, it's natural to do that.
When he made the 42-yarder with less than a minute to go, everyone had probably checked out of the game at that point. Did he need that? I mean, that is a guy that simply, you talk about a slump buster.
Mm-hmm.
He was at the bar at 3 a.m. just praying someone would go home with him. And luckily, he was able to find that. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that for a BYU, Utah product. But anyways, I asked Shane Steichen yesterday, mental or physical? Shane, I don't have a great answer for that. And I bring up the mental part, Andy, and, the Tennessee game. The game gets over. What's Matt Gay doing personal life-wise? Boom, straight to Utah for the birth of his kid. I believe 3rd kid, daughter. And so, I mean, that obviously it's a crazy hectic time for him personal life-wise. Now, he was back in Indy in time for practice all the week leading into Cincinnati. Again, I didn't think being there, I didn't think it was overly windy in Cincinnati for a chilly day.
It wasn't.
Evan McPherson clearly kicked it pretty well there. And then, obviously, there's no wind inside of Lucas Oil Stadium with the roof closed on Saturday. So,
do you think
he's not on the injury report? I bring up physical, though. Boy, a couple of the kickoffs, I'm like, wait a minute. What was that?
He just doesn't look like himself.
I mean,
and
the
special teams just hasn't been
line
good.
Drive that never bounced. I'm like, were they trying to squib it there? And then they did squib it on the kickoff from the 50-yard line. They had a net kickoff, which I know is kind of a nerdy stat. They had a net kickoff, I think, of 14 yards. I mean, watch a kickoff. Usually you net at 40 yards, 50 yards, even if you get a touchback. They only advanced at 14 yards on one of those kickoffs there. So that is one where, Matt Gay had created 4th down is go get a beer. 4th down is no longer go get a beer. This is a little bit of, hey, you got to sit and watch, make sure that ball is going through the uprights. Again, a huge punt coverage bust early in the game. That was such an easy block for Pittsburgh. So I do think you're in a little bit of a keep an eye on it. And I think you described it pretty well, Andy. Relying on him north of 50 is just not a guarantee. Now, they will kick indoors, each of the last 3 games in Atlanta and then, back here at Lucas Oil for the final 2. And who knows, maybe, personal life settled down a little bit. I don't.
Yeah, I just think it's Matt Gay. It's allowing, you've had to bench your punt returner, okay? And that tells me that, the fumble or the running into McKenzie wasn't all on, who was it, Speed? It wasn't EJ Speed. Amir Speed who did that. I don't know. You look at it and then, you score and then you allow a return, like a 30, 40-yard return. Like the special teams just hasn't been crisp. I wanted to ask you this before we get to our GOATs. There's 2 minutes and 12 seconds. It's a 4th and 1. at the Pittsburgh 25. They kick the field goal there. I was surprised up 2 touchdowns that Steichen kicked the field goal.
Oh, don't you want to go to 3 scores and just finish the game?
Well, I thought the way they were running the football, they would just go just to keep the football. I think he wanted to give Matt Gay a little work there, and then he misses the kick. They come back, and he gets him another opportunity to make that field goal. That's my read of the situation. Just because anytime you're at 4th and 1, I feel like Shane Steichen's going for it, especially up 2 touchdowns.
And especially what your O-line, how they had been,
dominating.
Again, bulldozing Pittsburgh throughout that second half and the fourth quarter there. Yeah, I looked at it more of just, probably stretch it to 3 scores, and then the game is officially over at that point. But, again, it is something to keep an eye on as the Colts move into Week 16. All right, EJ Speed going to join us in 40. Before we get to a morning check down, let's go ahead and do our GOATs from the weekend.
You guys are changing it on me. Hold on a second. Now I got to get the open. There we go.
Who is the GOAT?
I told you all that I was the greatest of all time.
Jordan, here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Or GOAT?
This guy sucks.
Of the week.
Shout out to the legend, Kyle Klein. He goes, I needed that slump buster to hit for the over. I forgot that the Matt Gay field goal there was for the over on that one.
It always matters to somebody.
That was a 43-point total. It ended at 42.5. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Gosh, does Vegas know all?
Vegas knows. I tell you one they didn't know was the Panthers and Falcons. That under was glistening from the minute it started.
How about the weather?
Oh, it looked brutal.
The attendance.
Empty
just
stadium.
Miserable.
Just an absolute miserable football game. All right, who wants to lead? You want to lead us off, KB? Who's your big GOAT of the weekend?
My
Who do
big
you love?
GOAT of the weekend is the toughness of one Michael Pittman Jr. That was one of the more vicious hits I've ever seen. And for him to have gotten up from the one in Carolina was one thing. For him to have gotten up from that on Saturday, and not only get up, Andy, but dude just walks off the field. He's in good spirits post-game. It is incredible. At a position that I think has a lot of diva, just look at the Pittsburgh wideout group.
Mm-hmm.
There's no diva whatsoever in Michael Pittman Jr. Are there flaws in his game that are keeping him from being a top 5, top 10 wideout? Sure. Unquestionably, he should be paid, in my opinion. He's consistent. He's reliable. He's durable as hell. He's tough as hell. Guys feed off of that. Michael Pittman Jr., that toughness is my GOAT of the weekend.
All right, my GOAT of the weekend, my big GOAT is the New Orleans Saints. Thank you for ending the Tommy DeVito 15 minutes of fame.
Is the agent still wearing stupid stuff?
Oh, the agent was wearing all green on the sideline.
Selfies.
DeVito almost got knocked out, by the way, in the game. He averaged 5 yards per completion, just a $177, had a QBR of 14. The Saints won. They needed to win 24-6. That was never a game. So thank you for ending the 15 minutes of fame. And can Tommy DeVito be a starting quarterback in the NFL? The answer is no.
Okay. Well, I don't know. As a Giants fan, I assume that would be your bad, but, whatever. That's okay. That's okay. You like the Saints now.
It's good. No, it's good the Saints put an end to it. They were mocking him.
He wants the entertaining losses.
Exactly.
He wants draft position.
Exactly.
Well, he ain't getting any of the top 2 quarterbacks.
Aren't you there,
now.
Mark? Aren't you happy about the Bears' result yesterday?
Not really, because you have the Panthers pick as well and all that stuff, so that takes a little bit of the salt out of the wounds. Anyway, my good, I could go the whole Saturday slate, which was glorious. I could go Montez Sweat being paid every cent that he's worth right now. But I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield, the first visiting quarterback ever to have a perfect quarterback rating at Lambeau Field, 22 of 28 for 381 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 34-20 win over the Green Bay Packers. That really helped me get over my Bears loss.
Packers suck.
That was glorious.
He was great. Mayfield was fantastic in that game.
Now, they've got to be viewed as the favorite to win the NFC South. I mean, somebody's got to win it, right?
Yeah. I don't think it's the Falcons anymore. Maybe the Saints, but I think it's Bucs or Saints at this point.
Yeah, the Bucs right now at 7-7. They lead, and like you said, the Saints 7-7, Atlanta 6-8. So the Colts on Saturday or on Sunday will be able to put Atlanta out of their misery. It's exactly what they need to do. All right, what's their
funny.
small
I was
goat?
reading a Falcons story from yesterday's game, and the headline said something to the effect of "Coach and quarterback future in question after awful loss." I'm thinking, has this not been the headline for like the last 7 straight Colts opponents?
I mean, basically.
Like literally, coach and quarterback questions. I guess not Cincinnati, but you go quarterback. Pittsburgh, Tennessee, New England, Carolina, and now Atlanta.
I mean,
and
Atlanta had everything
obviously the Raiders
to play
have
for.
quarterback and head coach questions next week as well. Atlanta had everything to play for. Just an awful loss by them. All right, lowercase goat of the weekend. I've got issues with bowl opt-outs, okay?
Okay.
I need NIL deals to now include the bowl games.
Okay, so who's bothered you?
It's the
who's sitting out
constant
that's bothering
barrage
you?
of like you listen to these bowl matchups and you're like, oh wow, Ole Miss, Penn State,
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Oh, they're terrible.
Is it Georgia, Florida State?
Yeah.
I mean, some of these on paper, these are great matchups, and yet it's like, oh, little did you know that this team has had 7 opt-outs or 8 opt-outs, and I get there's a multitude of reasons for it: transfer portal, NIL, NFL draft, etc., coaching changes, all of that. I think we've got to get to a point where these don't become glorified spring games, because that's what they are. If you look at Notre Dame's group they're going to throw out there in the Sun Bowl, especially offensively, it is a spring practice for Notre Dame.
Well, you're
with
starting
guys-
running back, offensive
pretty much
lineman
their
and
whole
quarterback not
offensive
even
line,
playing?
yeah. And
no, I'm with you.
So I would like to see an agreement with, if you're signing this, and I say this in quotes, name, image, likeness, because Lord knows it's not name, image, likeness. It's pay for play. Okay? Well, that means you play in the bowl game as well. I don't know legally how we do it. There's people smarter than me that hopefully can figure that out. But I hate the bowl. I love the bowl season. I hate the opt-out.
You know, like transfer portal became, a couple years ago, the transfer portal and NIL, there would be people, KB, that would stand on their pulpit and they would say, I don't enjoy the sport because of name, image, and likeness, and the players are now being paid, and we know about it and everything else. And I'm upset. I don't enjoy the games
and I don't
as
want
much.
to sound like that guy, but it has impacted bowl season.
I agree. No, that's what I was going to say. I have never been that guy. I have not been that guy with the portal. I haven't been that guy with NIL, but I am that guy with the bowls. I don't care about bowl season. And I know you can say, well, Andy, they don't matter until the college football playoff. Agreed. But they also have sold it to us that they do matter. Guys get paid. Coaches get paid more. We go back to it and say, wow, so-and-so won the Rose Bowl or the Gator Bowl or the Holiday Bowl or the Duke's Mayo Bowl, whatever it may be. Someone won 3 straight bowl games. I mean, Tom Allen didn't win a bowl game. Indiana hasn't won a bowl game since, the 60s? Like, these are things. These are stats that we
hasn't
still...
been that long,
No, it hasn't
fair,
been,
but
yeah,
yes.
but, whatever. That are still brought up. Listen, I'm totally with you. It's affected the way I view these bowl games. I didn't watch a bowl game over the weekend. I'm not sure which bowl game I even will watch. I'll give you you ready for my go to the weekend?
Yeah.
The Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans.
You do hate Vrabel.
They
You didn't like his
Vrabel,
cowboy hat, I believe.
Vrabel is just okay. So the Titans do, and it's funny. I get it. The Titans troll the Houston Texans with the Oiler jerseys, and Vrabel's got the bum Phillips hat, and then they go out there and they get beat by Devin Singletary, Noah Brown, and Case Keenum. That's exactly what the Tennessee Titans. The big
some mayo
bad,
and the coffee's needed for that injury for Will Levis.
The big bad Tennessee Titans, who are going to push people around, lost to Case Keenum, Devin Singletary, and Noah Brown on Sunday, and then on top of it, they can't protect their rookie quarterback in Will Levis, who's just got absolutely pounded. And then when he doesn't get sacked, he runs it and gets hit again, and he's injured, and that was a nasty injury. He's lucky he didn't leave in a cart, how bad that was. So lowercase GOAT, it's got to be the Titans. Plus, they didn't help at all the Colts out by beating the Texans.
My
Pathetic.
lowercase
Those
GOAT.
finishes to that game and the Bears and Browns,
I know.
unbelievable.
My lowercase GOAT is the late window slate. Those games all stunk. Specifically the Cowboys and Bills, because the Cowboys just got rolled in the Buffalo rain. And I know, it was raining. I'm like, well, Buffalo played in the same weather, and they were fine.
Settle down.
All right, sorry, Jerry, but I'm just saying, the Cowboys stink. They look a little bit like maybe they're turning in the Cowboys of old. We have flipped the calendar to December, and maybe they're turning into a pumpkin a little later than normal. But the Cowboys did not look very good at all, and their final 3 are pretty brutal.
Let me give you a stat
they got
real quick.
Dolphins, right, coming up?
Yeah, they do. Let me give you a stat. Dallas is the first road team in over 10 years to allow 85 net yards passing or fewer and lose by 20 points or more.
The Cowboys.
Josh Allen had 7 completions, right?
He was 7 of 15. That's exactly right.
The Cowboys' final 3 games are at Dolphins, home against the Lions, and then at Commanders.
And now, the thing is, it doesn't really matter. They've already clinched the playoff spot, but basically now the NFC East,
they can win the East.
Like it's going to go.
Hurts may not play tonight.
Through Philly, yes. I mean, depending on, obviously, Philly's got a big one tonight in Seattle. All right, let's hit a morning check down. EJ Speed in 30.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, tonight, let's start over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The Pacers finally back at home. It sounded like they did have some wild travel from the nation's capital to Minnesota on Saturday night, but still, the embarrassment from the weekend was Friday night, losing to the awful Wizards. Now 13-11 on the year, the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton, questionable for tonight with a knee contusion. Paul George and the Clippers have won 7 straight. The Clippers are a slight favorite in this one as they begin a road trip here in the Eastern Conference. Andy Sweeney, it's a look in the mirror week, in my opinion, for the Pacers.
Yeah, people weren't going to kill them for the Minnesota loss. Not at all. It would have been understandable. But the Wizards' loss is just, you're down double figures so much of the game. Halliburton goes out, but that's a 3-win team was Washington. Come on, they're dunking on you. No, that was the one where you can't, they've now, the problem I have with them is they have 4 of these losses. Is that a fair number this season of games where you look at and say, man, if you want to make the playoffs and be a top 5 or 6 seed, you can't lose these types of games. And they're now starting to compile some losses against bad teams. You got to win that game.
And remember,
on
Rick
Friday.
Carlisle, when he's been on with us, certainly in October and early November, it was take advantage of their early schedule. Take advantage of the early schedule. 13-11, that's not really taking advantage. And you haven't had the big injury yet.
It's not.
Cleveland's really banged up. There's other teams around the league that are really banged up. And if you look at the schedule the rest of December and January, it stiffens big time.
Yeah, the Clippers are good. James Harden's playing well, Paul George and everything else, so we'll see what happens there. The one we've been talking about from Saturday, Colts over the Steelers, 30-13. Michael Pittman Jr. injured, took a nasty hit there, did get up, did walk off, had 4 for 78. KB, he was going to have 6-7 catches, was going to put up over 100 yards.
He was going to extend that streak again, remember?
He absolutely was going to extend the streak there. After the game, Shane Steichen, head coach, talking about his wideout.
It was tough, obviously, to see that with Pitt, but to see him get up and walk off that field, the guy is tough as nails, and it's over and over and over again what he does, the toughness he shows, just the credibility he brings to this football team year in and year out, and obviously this year for sure the way he's playing. I think he's probably over 1,000 yards now, right? He's been phenomenal.
So seems to be in good spirits, though. Extra day this week to pass through concussion protocol, so we'll obviously update you on that throughout. And Zach Moss with that arm injury, and it sounds like there is a possibility that Jonathan Taylor could return this week. All right, college basketball from over the weekend. Let's start with the hat I'm rocking. That would be the Indiana State Sycamores. They continue their very fine start to the season. They beat Ball State in the opener over there at the Indy Classic. And then in the second game, how about Purdue? 92 points they put up on Arizona. The balance from the big three, Fletcher Lawyer, 27, Braden Smith, 26, Zach Edey, 22. How about Zach Edey, team leading 5 assists? Got to love that from your 7-4.
Well, the best part is he goes 22, 9, and 5, and he's not even the top 2 story on the Purdue team, probably coming from.
I would say
probably coming from the game.
Kind of normal Purdue. If Edey's scoring 22, you're probably not getting 92.
No,
your guards were that good. And then in Bloomington, it was Indiana playing, I would say, probably one of their better kind of 30-minute stretches of the season. Easily Trey Galloway's, probably the best game of his career, with a career-high 28 points. They cannot close that one out with Kansas. And again, the opportunities, these just do not grow on trees. That is what is such a big kind of kick in the you-know-what and a gut-wrenching loss for Indiana. They're just not in a position to celebrate the moral victories very much at all right now. And Gabe Cupps and Trey Galloway, Mike Woodson mentioned after the game, just felt like they kind of wore down there late, 37 and 38 minutes each. Can C.J. Gunn give you a little bit more off the bench with Xavier Johnson still being out? And we'll obviously see how long that absence continues to be. It's cupcake week pretty much for everybody in college basketball. Same goes for Indiana and Purdue.
Yeah, Indiana had 3 bench points. I know that stat can be misleading sometimes, but that's not going to cut it. 2 guys played 16 minutes. Gunn played 5, 3 points, and Indiana losers there by 4. Final item for me, Tom Allen, defensive coordinator, now at with James Franklin at Penn State. Does that move the needle for you, staying in the Big Ten?
That's a nice landing spot for Tom Allen. I am disappointed not to see Penn State on Indiana's schedule next season. I would love to see Kurt Cignetti and Tom Allen meet for a little snapping of the fingers at midfield and an LEO embrace. But
the Tom Allen revenge game.
I do think Tom Allen as a high major defensive coordinator makes a lot of sense.
I would agree.
So good for Tom Allen, and financially very good for him. EJ Speed in 25. It's the wake-up call.
The Legends Golf Club at Franklin is offering a limited...
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
EJ Speed going to join us here in about 20 minutes. Been a fun show today, reacting to such a busy weekend, especially on Saturday, all the college basketball, the NBA, and of course, the Colts winners on Saturday over the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll continue to talk about that and obviously preview the rest of the season. The Colts right there with a chance to be in the playoffs. Atlanta coming up next. Boy, Atlanta surely is looking bad right now. They just cannot score whatsoever. Pretty ugly loss, pretty couple ugly losses this season already for Atlanta. And then the Raiders coming up on, it's New Year's Eve, is it not? The 31st?
Sunday at 1, but
How
New
about
Year's
that?
Eve.
That's New Year's Eve. The Bones got anything going New Year's Eve?
No, sir.
Big,
New Year's Eve.
swanky dinner, ball, or anything like that you're going to? A little dress up or anything?
Me kind of falls in the overrated holiday category.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's the most overrated.
I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but
I think most people probably agree with you.
Can't tell you the last time I've willingly been in public at midnight.
Yeah, sit on my couch, probably fall asleep early, watch a movie. Like, oh yeah, it's midnight, big deal.
Yeah, there you go. It's off to the new year.
For the next 3 weeks, I'll forget that the year has changed, and I'll write 23 instead of 24.
Now, the Sunday after that, the final regular season game of the year.
Oh, it could mean everything.
Just flex it now. Flex Colts and Texans right now. I mean, if you look at some of these playoff standings, and let's, I guess, run that down, Andy, with Jacksonville losing last night. You continue to have the same 4 teams leading their divisions in the AFC. That would be Miami. That would be Baltimore. That would be Kansas City. And that would be Jacksonville. Why? Because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Indianapolis, and they have the 3-way tiebreaker over Indy and Houston. All 3 of these teams right now are at 8-6. Now, Trevor Lawrence is in concussion protocol exiting last night. They are at Tampa, home to Carolina, and home to Tennessee the rest of the season.
At Tennessee.
At Tennessee. Thank you, Mark, for the rest of the season. That seems rather manageable, besides at Tampa, of course. So there is a pathway for the Colts to still win the AFC South. They have to finish ahead of Jacksonville. So whatever Jacksonville does the final 3 weeks of the season, the Colts have got to be better than them record-wise. If Jacksonville goes 1-2, you got to be 2-1. If Jacksonville goes 2-1, you got to be 3-0, et cetera, et cetera. Again, Jacksonville will win any 3-way tiebreaker with these teams as well. Now, wild card-wise, Indy is still in that 7th spot because they got really no help yesterday in the wild card department. Cleveland won, so they're 9-5. They're the 5th seed. The 6th seed right now is Cincinnati. They are at 8-6. And then if you look at the first 2 teams out right now, both of them are 8-6 right now. That would be Buffalo, and that would be Houston. So the playoff path has added another route, Andy, in that the division could open up. You could host a home playoff game for the first time since 2014, which is amazing to think about. But the wild card percentages actually shrunk a little bit after your win on Saturday. After you win, you're north of 60%. But then, again, some other teams won on Sunday that maybe you didn't think would win. So that's kind of how things look in the wild card in the division right now, and we'll go over these scenarios as as this week progresses. But I cannot reiterate this enough: Houston and Indianapolis in Week 18. It very well could be, Andy. Winner gets in, loser goes home.
So you want that to be the Sunday night game? Is that what you're going to campaign for?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't they do a Saturday night game?
Because everything is TBD right now.
And is there anything on Saturday? Or am I wrong on that?
Well, no, right now, everything's to be determined. I'm looking at Week 18 right now in the NFL. Everything is TBD. And the other notable games you have that weekend, okay, Houston and Indianapolis is absolutely going to be one of those games. You're spot on with that. You have Cleveland at Cincinnati.
Could be in a similar boat.
Could be in a similar boat.
But Cleveland might have something wrapped up.
Minnesota at Detroit. Can Minnesota get in? That would be a question. But to me, that's not a winner get in. Detroit's in the playoffs and that sort of thing. We'll see what happens with seeding. To me, Houston, Indianapolis is way greater than Minnesota and Detroit. You have Buffalo, Miami. Obviously, I'd be watching that one. Buffalo, will they get in what they just did to the Dallas Cowboys?
But they're still 2 full games behind Miami.
Agreed. I'm just giving you games that would matter. I mean, Miami they get the 1 seed. Buffalo, can they get in? You have Atlanta, New Orleans. I'm not sure that one's going to mean maybe what we thought. Atlanta, the losing they've done the last couple weeks, especially losing to Carolina. Like, you lose that game 9-7, you just got to win that game 9-7. That's all you got to do. It doesn't have to be pretty. You just got to win that game. I don't know. Maybe Rams, Niners has a little bit, but Pittsburgh-Baltimore doesn't have the zest on it that we thought it was going to have. I would say Houston-Indianapolis is either the best or is in the top 2 or 3 games that weekend.
So last year the NFL did a Saturday doubleheader. It was Chiefs at Broncos and it was Cowboys at Eagles. So they did do a Week 18 Saturday doubleheader.
Boy, I don't remember, but I don't think those games had a lot of playoff implications.
Cowboys-Eagles maybe did. There's no way the Chiefs and Broncos did because the Broncos
I would have thought
stunk.
the Eagles would have already wrapped up the division at that point. Wasn't Minshew playing late in the year for him? Even if it's not, slotted into the Sunday night, even if it's not put on Saturday, Andy, again, the game is absolutely, absolutely massive. If you look at some of these situations, even if the Colts win the next 2, and then lose to Houston.
Right. They could still get in.
It would still be, winning the next 2 and losing to Houston, that could still put you out.
Right.
Because, the Houston game matters that much. Think about that. You get to 10 wins, and you'd be out. So that's why if you look at the importance of these next games, yes, you want to beat Atlanta. You want to beat Vegas. Like, those games do have some implication. But if you look at all the different scenarios, nothing matters as much as Houston. Right now, that game carries about a 60% difference for your playoff odds, whether you win it or lose it. You win it, it's about 80% chance you make the postseason. You lose it, it's about a 20% chance you make the postseason.
I would ask Colts fans, I'll ask you, KB, do you want to play on that final weekend of the season? Do you want to play on Saturday? You would lose a day because, again, you're playing, you did the Saturday, you gained a day, so you're playing on the 24th, okay, the day before Christmas. Christmas Eve, you're playing Atlanta, that's a Sunday, and then you're coming back and playing on the 31st, that's a Sunday. Would you want to lose a day there if you play on the 6th and not the 7th? It's just something I'll ask. I mean, because it could be absolutely. There's no doubt. There's no doubt the Colts and Texans could be a Saturday game.
It seems like the NFL's logic last year was that those games that are on Saturday, they had playoff implications, but they had very little playoff implications. Like, says the Chiefs were able to lock up the number 1 seed with a win over the Broncos. Okay, that probably happened. Cowboys and Eagles was strictly seeding. Whereas the Sunday night game that year was Chargers-Raiders, win or go home.
Right.
So I think they want the win or go home mentality on a Sunday night game.
I'd be totally fine with a short week. Obviously, the injuries exiting the Week 17 game would play into that. A Michael Pittman sort of situation wouldn't be ideal in a short week. But Houston obviously has got to do the travel.
Right, and they would be going through the exact same thing.
Sure.
So,
so that's kind of how I would
Houston
view that
has the Browns, the Titans, and then obviously the Colts at the end of the season. So, I mean, that Browns-Texans game, that's going to be a huge game for them. I guess tentatively I would say, okay, if Houston lost that game and the Colts could beat Atlanta, they would have a leg up then. And then you have the Tennessee Titans just mixed in with all of this. Will Levis, boy, I tell you, he looked bad coming off that field. I don't know what they're going to do the final 3 weeks of the year.
EJ Speed joins us in 10 minutes. It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy.
Join JMV from 3 to
In about 7 or 8 minutes, Colts winners, talking a lot about them, where they could be in the playoffs. Will they make the playoffs? What that final week of the season may mean against the Houston Texans. We'll get back to that. Tons of college basketball over the weekend. I do have a Matt Painter clip that I want to play for KB here in the 9 o'clock hour. Let's carve a few minutes out, though, for the Pacers. You know, we've done so much, and I don't mind admitting it. I know it's a football reaction Monday when the Colts do what they did over the weekend, but, you know, the Pacers have been, for the most part, KB, they have been a feel-good story. For the area, they've been a feel-good story. Hell, in the NBA with what they did with the in-season tournament and everything. We know they're young. I am interested. We are slotted to have Rick Carlisle join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. like he has for the majority of the season, and we appreciate it. But, you know, they could be coming off, you know, they could be 13-12. They're 13-11 right now, and they could be looking at 4 straight losses if they lose tonight to the Clippers, who are playing some pretty good basketball. Harden's getting, you know, I mean, come on, his game. We understand his game and everything else. The return of Paul George there. But for me, you know, we said this earlier, losing to Minnesota, you know, you lose to a really good team like that. Halliburton dealing with the left knee injury. You're at the very end of this
your flight landed
long
like 3 hours
trip.
before
Yeah, I mean, just this trip, you know, it's been a long trip. When you talk about the Vegas trip, playing the Lakers and being a part of that, and then, you know, really being on the road, you can understand being tired. And I really thought Carlisle said that after the game. He was very much like, hey, this team is kind of a tired team right now. And then, of course, you throw in, like I said, Halliburton not being on the floor. No one was going to crush him, beat him over the head for losing to Minnesota. But to me, that Washington loss is inexcusable, whether you have Halliburton or he does leave in the third quarter. And now, you know, you wake up today, they're a 7 seed. They're behind the Knicks. They're behind the Heat, the Magic, the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Celtics. And that's not where you wanted to be. You wanted to be better than a couple of those teams. I think you mentioned it was a look in the mirror week for the Pacers. And that's how I feel. I'll be very interested. The tone of Rick Carlisle coming up tomorrow when he joins us at 8 o'clock.
I think there's an element of they've played to their competition throughout the year, good and bad. And to me, if you're going to be a legit playoff team, you can play to competition, upper echelon, but you can't play to it when the bottom feeders arise in the schedule, particularly that Washington game. You know, that is you on the first night of a back-to-back. You know, you take care of business in a professional manner, especially after all the hubbub after the game Wednesday night in Milwaukee. You know, I see a Bucks team go to Detroit and absolutely, or I should say beat Detroit, absolutely dominate them, and the Pacers just throw up such a pathetic effort against the Wizards. And I think you're playing with fire right now. The schedule's been pretty manageable for the most part. You haven't had the big Western road trip yet. You haven't had the big injury yet. You know, your starting lineup's been really healthy. Now Halliburton's a little banged up, and, you know, how are you going to react to that? And really, if you want to get specific with that starting lineup, Andy, and I'll group these 3 together. They're not all like 1A, 1B, but you need more from Bruce Brown, from Buddy Hield, from Miles Turner. I put Turner probably third on that list for a reason. I do think he has been the best out of those 3. But on Friday night against a Washington team with absolutely zero front court, you know, Turner is a no-show. And again, Hield doesn't even score Saturday night. And Bruce Brown's getting $20 million. You're projecting him into a bigger role, and right now that bigger role seems to be too much for him. So I think a lot of questions for where the Pacers are at. And again, as I said, look in the mirror, week for them. It'll be the Clippers tonight, 7-game win streak for Paul George and company. And then a back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday. That is home to Charlotte, at Memphis, and then the Magic. And again, you look at the Magic and the Hornets, Andy, both those teams have already beaten the Pacers this season inside of Gainbridge Field.
Yeah, you look at the 3 losses in a row. It's by an average of 15 points. Buddy Hield, 4 of 20 the last 3 games, averaging 6 over that time span. It's just not going to win. Not going to win.
It's a liability, to say the least. EJ Speed, Colts linebacker, next.
The Ride with JMV.
Pittsburgh in the white and the yellow pants, and they hand off right side to Harris. He's bottled up, gets off the initial tackle. He lost the ball over on the far sideline, but they're going to rule him down. Harris down at the 13-yard line.
That the runner was down by contact, second down. The ruling on the field is changed to a fumble recovered by the defense. First down, Indianapolis.
Great challenge by the Colts. Well done by head coach Shane Steichen. The Colts are now 2 for 3 on winning challenges this year, and it's the second takeaway of the ball game for the Colts defense.
And the man making that play is EJ Speed. He's joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. It's the Wake Up Call. KB and Andy hanging out with you. Another hour to go. Reaction Monday. All the basketball, pro and college, and obviously the Colts winners on Saturday, over the Pittsburgh Steelers, 30-13. You heard that play-by-play clip. That was EJ Speed, and he joins us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. EJ, good morning, man. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Yo, what's up? How y'all doing? I'm doing well.
I'm sure you are doing well after that win. How great was that locker room on Saturday after that beatdown?
It's cool. All the energy in the world, man. Gardner really turned us up after the win. All props to him. He did his thing. And, we got another opponent next week. We just going to keep the thing rolling, keep the tide going.
Now, there's very rare occurrences where I would ever feel comfortable comparing myself to an NFL athlete. Let me be clear. But yesterday, I think, was maybe one of the few times. EJ Speed, if you don't mind, it looked like some of your Sunday routine involved. Did I see, did you go Panda Express and Buffalo Wild Wings yesterday?
Oh, yeah, DoorDash is dangerous. I'm going to tell everybody that now. DoorDash is dangerous. But I'm scrolling through DoorDash, and I seen Panda, and I ordered it, and I was like, I think I want Buffalo, so I ordered that too. It was crazy.
Wait.
We all can raise our hands.
Wait, you got them at the same. You got them at the same time. You didn't get one at like noon and then one at like 7 o'clock at night. You got them both at the same time.
Both at the same time.
It's like 5,000 calories.
Now, if you had to pick,
I had to wait because the second DoorDasher was like 3 minutes apart from each other, so that was the only buzzkill in the situation. It was worth it.
Now, if you had to pick just one, you going Panda or you going Buffalo Wild Wings?
Panda.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Would you get the orange chicken? What'd you get?
Double orange chicken and rice.
I used to get that orange chicken.
You can't really trust nothing else. That's the only way to go.
EJ Speed, one of us. That's probably the only time that'll ever happen. You heard the clip right there. A huge forced fumble there to open up the second half, and that started the onslaught for the Colts as they beat the Steelers on Saturday. EJ, walk us through that play in stripping Najee Harris.
It was just a situation where running to the ball paid off. He was out of my vision, so it was a great time to go for the ball. Najee is a good running back, no discredit to him, but all runners when they headed towards the ground, they kind of put air on the ball. I'm sure y'all heard Shaq talk about that time after time, and it just paid off. The ref didn't see it at first. I get up, I'm telling him, nah, that's a forced fumble. He's looking at me crazy, like, come on, bro, it's not a forced fumble.
So are you sprinting to Shane to say challenge that?
I was throwing my hand up, but they tried to hurry on the ball because I feel like they knew it was a forced fumble too. So I'm throwing like you throw the flag from your belt on the field, and then I was like, all right, flip it. Let me just focus back on this play, on this next play, and then I think the Jumbotron showed it, and then it just came. I seen Shane throw the flag, and I knew it was off the field.
Yeah, honestly, it was a great in-stadium replay by the Colts. Great work on that. I want to go back to something that you just said there about that fumble. You said runners tend to lose air from the ball, and that was something that Shaq kind of taught you. Could you explain more of that?
Kind of just a natural instinct for runners when they headed towards the ground. They kind of use their arms to brace themselves, especially when they think their hitters are out of their vision. They kind of use it's just a little bit of air that comes on the ball, that comes from the ball from their chest to brace themselves to hit the ground. So if you time it up perfectly, you always get the ball out.
I know all of that happened quick with that play, and you mentioned Coach Steichen throwing the flag, and you felt good about it. But if there would have been some more time and the Steelers don't go hurry up there and they don't have it that quick on the Jumbotron, if you run over there to Coach and say, hey, he was not down, that is absolutely a fumble, do coaches listen to players at times like that, or is it all coming from up above when they see the replay before, I guess, anybody else?
I don't know. This is my first year with Steichen, so it was my first situation to where he had to challenge one of my plays. I guess we'll test it out the next one. The next one I'm definitely running to him because I'm 1-0 right now.
I always wonder because
you're on top of the world. You might have a Zaire Franklin package put in next week for you.
I might be in his good graces right now. Probably try me at receiver.
Because sometimes the players are right, and sometimes they're wrong. Obviously, it's such a bang bang play. EJ Speed with us here on the Fan on the Payless Liquors hotline. You didn't play in the Cincinnati game, but I would imagine that game happens. Watching that film, EJ, that can't be good, right? I mean, and that's really the first game you guys just didn't have it. What was the preparation like this week, knowing how big the Steeler game was and how much you guys just wanted to get that bad taste out of your mouth with what happened in Cincinnati?
Just a lot of guys stepping up to the plate. I think we proved that that in gotta-win situations, everybody pushes a little harder when they know what's at stake. So I think this week everybody just put their best foot forward as they do every week, but sometimes you fall short, and this week we just didn't.
He's EJ Speed, again, leading tackler on Saturday for the Colts. A huge forced fumble there early in the third quarter. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. EJ, this past offseason, you re-sign here in Indy. Bobby Okereke goes to New York. Why did you re-sign, and what did you envision this season being like for you from a role standpoint?
I think it was just mainly me believing in the process of everything that the organization stands for. And Chris Ballard, he always, after every season, he always take full responsibility for everything that happened throughout the season, and I can respect that because when somebody can take responsibility, they know where they lack at and they know where they can fix and they know what the problems are with the organization. He's very much in tune and stays and just always communicates with us about how he's feeling about situations and stuff like that. So I believe in the organization and where it was going. I knew we was getting a quarterback. I didn't know which one we was getting actually, but I was excited when we got Anthony Richardson, and everything just felt right to come back. And I think now we got a chance to make the playoffs and make a run. So. In my eyes, it was the right choice.
Individually for you, and this is me talking here, it felt like you were scratching the surface. Like you had flashed, and when you got playing time, you had delivered, and you almost seemed deserving of a bigger role. Did you kind of feel that way through your first 4 years of like, I'm ascending as a player, and if I just get a little bit more opportunity, I can be pretty darn impactful?
Yeah, I always felt like that. I felt like that day one in the league, but I just accepted my reality through it all. The reality was that I was a role player and I had to make an impact on special teams. So that's what I had set out to do, and now that my role increased, I know that I got to make an impact on defense, and that's what I set out to do. Nothing is bigger than me with this whole process. It's all about our team and helping the team win. So, yeah, that's how I looked at it.
EJ Speed with us here on The Fan. EJ, you're watching the game, it's 13-0, right? And so, like, the Bengals game happens, and you come home, it's 13-0, and there's enough Steeler fans there. They're doing the stupid, terrible towel thing, and you got to be thinking, hey, what's going on here? What was the mood on the sideline, and what did you guys do defensively, talking amongst yourselves that, hey, we got to stop this. We got to give our offense a chance to get back into this game.
Yeah, next time we need to have some metal detectors for those terrible tags. Those towels, like it was too many of them in the stands. But
that could be toilet paper in the stadium.
Shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers fan, man. They travel well. I actually gained the respect for them for that game because they was loud on Saturday. But through it all, I just knew our game plan was the right one, and if we executed it, then the score wouldn't even be close. So I think that was the vibes for Saturday. Just execute that game plan. I knew it would be a blowout.
And I listen, I know you're a defensive guy, and you're watching the offense, and the defense this season has had guys step up, whether they're backups or not, step up and make plays. And one of the storylines was all the backups. Obviously, you mentioned Gardner Minshew playing as well as he did, but Moss goes down. In comes Goodson. In comes Sermon. DJ Montgomery gets a touchdown as well. When you're a defensive guy and you're watching the offense, there's some injuries, and all these guys come in and make big plays. I'd have to imagine that gets your blood boiling a little bit in a good way on the sideline, seeing those guys get an opportunity and go out there and make plays to win a game.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even look at them as backups. I just look at everybody as role players and accepting a role. And the role for those guys was if a guy goes down, then another guy steps up. Our scout team actually practices very hard They got Scout Team Player of the Week and stuff like that, and most of those guys that had good games were previous Scout Team Player of the Weeks at one point. So, hey, I'm excited for those guys. That was a tribute, man, to the culture that we have here in Indy.
He is E.J. Speed, along with obviously a team leading 10 tackles on Saturday. Him and Zaire Franklin host the Trenches podcast. A great listen. You can check that out on all of your podcast platforms. EJ, as a defensive player, and you're watching the offense on the field, probably a little bit more jumbotron, what did you think of the Michael Pittman Jr. hit?
I mean, it's football, Mike. Pitt is actually one of the toughest guys that on the opposite side of the ball. So for him to get hit like that and get back up, it just added more life. I'm sure if you talk to that guy from Pittsburgh, he would tell you that it wasn't maliciously. He wasn't looking to injure Pitt or take him out of the game or anything like that, even though it may seem like he did. But it's part of the game, man. We all take hits. We all give hits. And I'm sure I done got some hits that probably seemed a little dirty at some point. I done gave out some hits that probably seemed a little dirty at some point. So it's all in the love of the game. I'm glad that Pitt was able to get up and recover from that. I think he's going through everything he needs to this week to play. And I'm glad to see him back on the field on Sunday.
As a defender, are you torn at all in seeing a guy get ejected for a hit like that, or did you feel like that kind of qualified as one?
Yeah, it did. It qualified. It's part of the game. I mean, people go down from injuries. People get ejected from games over hits and everything like that. This is the new NFL that we in. We just all got to accept it. And I'm sure it's like growing pains of everybody just learning how to relate to these new rules. You know what I mean? So it's all in respect to the game.
We always say it here that Pittman might be from USC, but there's no pretty boy with his play, EJ. That dude's tough.
Nah, definitely, yeah. Pitt one of those guys.
EJ Speed with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Atlanta coming up next. You guys are right there, just staring the playoffs right in the face. How do you stay focused? And I guess what do you know about Atlanta as you start prep for them?
Just hone in. As soon as we get that game plan, just lock into it and go out there and execute. My motto is always to be perfect. Even though that is one of the hardest things, it's very much possible. So, so we're just looking to be perfect on Sunday.
EJ, last one from me. I think our fan, and again, EJ Speed is with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. I think our audience knows your story fairly well, but for those that maybe didn't follow your story early on, refresh us of what your college career was like from a position standpoint. If I'm not mistaken, you were like mainly an offensive guy entering college, and then what was it like for you at Tarleton State to transitioning to an NFL linebacker?
Yeah, I came in as playing a receiver in college, and I was a quarterback in high school. Came in, started playing some receiver, got a new coaching staff, and I switched over to the defensive side of the ball. Started playing linebacker about my last 2 years of college, and it flourished. I had a great defensive coach, Coach Patton, he's coaching up in Colorado State. He's coaching the defensive backs. Great coach, man. I can go on for hours about him and Coach Witten over there when they was at Charleston State and how they came together and had a winning season, and continued Coach Witten's legacy. And Coach Patton went off to coach at D1 at a major D1, and those guys was everything. I believed in them, they believed in me, and it all worked out. And now I owe them everything. I owe them my efforts and stuff while I'm in the league to just show that we all made the right decision at that one point in time.
Okay, two things off that. Your first contact with the Colts during the draft process, is it true that it wasn't until that March Pro Day just before the draft?
Yeah, it was. I didn't even talk to him in college. It was after college at the draft and everything like that. I talked to the Colts, and I'm so glad they believed in me because I love it here in Indy.
And then lastly, who's got better hands, you or Zaire Franklin?
Definitely me. And don't let Z tell you anything different because I know he is, but it's definitely me. Even though he got the offensive role. So he one-upped me right now. He one-upped me right now on the polls. But
you go full house backfield, 44 and 45 back there.
Hey, that'll look good. Look at it, man. Next time Steichen get on the radio show, you tell him about that.
That'll be the first question. We'll toss Shane's away. EJ, hell of a game on Saturday. Your absence was certainly felt in Cincinnati, and your presence was very welcome against the Steelers. Congrats on the season so far. Stay healthy, and thanks for hopping on, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
EJ Speed right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Fun dude. I think you watch him play. I mean, hell, first tackle of the game, Andy, you felt his presence. He's got a high energy level to him, and he's had a really, really nice career progressing from a 5th-round pick that, a lot of people were very curious about the draft selection. The Colts saw him at a pro day, not even like Tarleton State's pro day. It was a conference pro day, the conference that Tarleton State is a part of. He flashed there, and another in the litany of great linebacker draft picks that Chris Ballard has had.
Yeah, again, yesterday, or I should say Saturday, was a good day if you're Chris Ballard. I mean, you saw guys like E.J. Speed. You have seen the depth at the defensive line, that front seven. You've seen that grow this season to where, a lot of times early on in the year we thought, well, who's going to help Buckner, right? I mean, we looked at Kwity Paye a lot. We looked at different guys, and they have just had a litany of guys that continue to make plays. You mentioned that with the offensive line as well. My man threw down 5,000 calories for lunch, KB.
How about that combo there?
Oh, man.
Panda, Buffalo Wild Wings, one of us, E.J. Speed.
Yeah, but
get a bottle of Tums, though. My God.
Yeah, but we're radio guys. We're not going to work it off. He gets to go out and play football. And I knew
his Sunday was Panda Express, Buffalo Wild Wings on the couch watching football. That's one of us.
It's a dream. No, it really is. I knew without even looking that he went with that orange chicken.
No,
that orange chicken is fire.
And by the way, I
fire.
agree. Panda over Buffalo Wild Wings, right?
Yeah. I haven't had Panda Express in a while. I don't know why I've read it's like 2,500 calories for one of those things. Like I'm counting calories anyway, but I haven't got it in a while. I might get Panda here pretty soon.
That will be up on the podcast.
It's the closest
Again,
one.
Thank you to EJ Speed for that. Before we do get to a morning check down, we'll focus a little bit more basketball on the floor and obviously where the Colts stand in the playoff standings. A melancholy announcement here, and that just announced here in the last few minutes by the University of North Carolina. Indy native Eric Montross.
I saw this.
Has passed away at the age of 52. For those unfamiliar with Montross's recent story, first off, he has always been a huge advocate for cancer research. Has really made Chapel Hill his home here over the last X amount of years, and especially pediatric cancer research as well. He was diagnosed back in March, Andy.
And it's unbelievable.
And he passed, they said, on Sunday. I believe 3 kids for him. Obviously played here at Lawrence North, went to North Carolina, part of that 93 national title team. So just awful, awful news here on this Monday morning of Eric Montross's passing.
Just 52 years old, is that what you said? I saw that when we were talking
52,
to EJ.
yeah.
Listen, I knew he was sick. I did not know that it was.
I've heard great things about him as a human,
Sure.
by the way. I don't pretend to know him, but I've just heard great things. And obviously, his philanthropic side speaks for itself.
Just 52 years old, man. That's way too young. It's just way too young. I remember I do remember back in March when he was diagnosed now. It was actually haven't thought of it now for several months.
Yeah, I remember us bringing up on the show and just how eerie it is. Here's this guy that has carried such a torch for, again, cancer research, pediatric cancer research in the Chapel Hill area, and then to be diagnosed and gone in less than a year. Just absolutely awful. So goes without saying that thoughts, prayers to everybody in the Montross family, North Carolina as well. Am I imagining things? Didn't he do some radio color for them?
He did. He did. I believe he did, yes.
Okay. I was going to say, I thought that was part of kind of his post-playing career. All right, no pop quiz for today's show as we recap the Colts game. We'll get to our fan headlines here in a bit. You said you've got an interesting Matt Painter audio clip to throw that some fan bases here in the state might not love.
He just gave a little slight. He liked the Crossroads Classic. Not
Did
everybody
he take a
did,
jab
apparently.
At my Irish? I think he might have, but maybe the jab was a little bit more Bloomington related.
I think, did anyone really want to play? Did you want to see Purdue in the Irish play this year? That might not be good. It might be 96 to 58.
I'm not sure if I want to see Notre Dame play Butler, frankly, this year with where they're at. Let's lead off a morning check down, though, with a little bit of hardwood.
The Morning Checkdown. Omaha! On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Let's go back to Saturday, Andy Sweeney, and a busy day of hoops here in the state of Indiana. I'm rocking the Larry Legend hat. How about the start for the Sycamores? They are now 10-1 on the year. They beat Ball State to lead off the Indy Classic over there at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. They are a fun team to watch, particularly on the offensive end of the floor. So they get a nice win there as Josh Schertz's second season. Very nice start. Ryan Conwell, the transfer, back the Indy native, 27-10. 83-72 over Ball State. In the second game, it was Purdue, 92-84, the number one team in the land. For the most part, Andy, they were in control throughout. What did Arizona cut it to? Was it 4?
I know they got to 6. I think they may have got it to 4. I still just never thought that Purdue was going to lose that game.
It was darn impressive how much they were in. Again, mostly kind of a double-digit control. Second half definitely crept into single digits. But Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, they combined for 53. Zach Edey, 22, and a team leading 5 assists. And without question, the best non-conference resume in all the land is going to be Purdue. And that is important if you care about the month of March. And yes, insert your jokes here, but also that would create a path of 2 NBA arenas. That would be the Indiana Pacers arena, then the Detroit Pistons arena. If you look at the first 2 rounds and then the Elite 8 and Sweet 16 potentially for Purdue. And if you scored 92 inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse and your guards shoot it like they did on Saturday, Andy, I think I'd like to play in that arena again this season.
I think they're going to be in Gainbridge. Now, you mentioned the clip. Here's Matt Painter. Matt Painter after the game. I cut some of this out because he went on and talked about other things. But he was asked about the Indy Classic, and he lamented how he liked the Crossroads Classic that, of course, has went by the wayside.
Yeah, it's a great event. We obviously liked the previous event, that we were in. That made a whole lot of sense. Why people didn't want to do that is still all right. But it's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? With Indiana and Notre Dame and Butler, like, that just makes sense. Like, why not keep playing that event? But to each their own.
I'm interested. What was you all's discussion when that came down?
So when that fell apart, I think it was Indiana and Notre Dame that both wanted to get out. Notre Dame, I think, played a little bit more of the, first off, we barely have any fans in the building, et cetera, et cetera. We would like to get a little bit more of our national rivalries, if you will, Marquette, Georgetown, some of those older ones back on the schedule. In my opinion, kind of a cop-out by Notre Dame, but
because you can do them both. You schedule all these games. You don't have to play Kennesaw State 5 times.
Again, it was more of this is just a road game for us on the neutral floor, and we don't love it. For Indiana, it was, we feel like our brand is big enough that we can get a, Arizona in Vegas game or, an Auburn and Atlanta game, the home and home with Kansas. So, selfishly, I hate that the Crossroads Classic is over. I get where Indiana was coming from, probably more than Notre Dame, even as a Notre Dame fan. I say that, but it's a bummer because I love that Saturday. I love the fact that Butler got to get those games on their schedule on an annual basis. And, for the most part, you had some, really great finishes in those series. So I understand where Matt Painter's coming from, but I see no way it gets started back up here.
No, it's not going to. So I watched that from an hour and a half down the road, and the Indiana buddies that I have very much were like, we can go do something else with
they can, but the flip side of that is, look what happens.
Yeah.
If you go play these big neutral court games against Auburn and Atlanta, you get run off the floor. You go play the big game against Arizona and Vegas, you get run off the floor.
Well, you went to Kansas last year, got ran off the floor.
Right, but even the neutral site. I'm trying to point to some of these neutral sites. I mean, it's a little be careful what you wish for. If you can get right now, a non-conference neutral court win, not that Indiana would guarantee to have it, over Butler, it would actually look decent on their resume compared to what they have.
Yeah, what I love, I totally agree with Matt Painter. I could not agree with him even more, and you can tell because, of course, you may say, well, Painter knows he's going to have a good team and everything else, so he can schedule different than other people. Okay, that's fine, but when someone says we're not going to do something like the Crossroads Classic, you can do both. If you're like Indiana, you can go play Arizona or Kansas or somebody else, and you can play the Crossroads Classic. The next 3 games is like Morehead State, Kennesaw State, and somebody else. You can trim one of those games. College basketball, these coaches have such control over their schedule that when they act like they can't play a game, and John Calipari's done a lot of this as well. He doesn't want to play a home and home with anybody. That you can play the neutral site game and you can play the home game or the home and home as well. I don't know. I just don't understand it. Then you go play Kansas, and you're not competitive in one game, and then you lose at home and everything else. I don't think you're ever going to see it coming back. but I would absolutely agree. And just one more thing to the Indiana. They didn't want to be part of the Crossroads Classic, fine. They also turned down being in the Champions Classic. The one that the Kentucky
Michigan
has
State,
been a part
Duke,
of.
Kentucky, Kansas, right?
No, that is a Champions Classic. What's the CBS Sports Classic that was played this weekend?
Oh,
Ohio State
yeah,
is in the
CBS
CBS Sports Classic. Indiana turned down the opportunity to be a part of that to where they could have got Kentucky, and I know obviously the Kentucky-Indiana, are they going to play? Are they not going to play? When are they going to play? Where are they going to play? When's Cal going back to Bloomington and everything like that? So I don't want to hear from college basketball coaches when you put in, come on, half the games you feel like you're going to win. You can't test yourself or play in something like the Crossroads Classic that's a good event, and you could play in something like this as well. I don't know. It's just silly.
As a Notre Dame fan, I choose to remember Notre Dame beating Purdue by 31.
There you go.
Back a few years back in the Crossroads Classic, not blowing a 17-point lead 2 years later to the Boilers, and Indiana.
Not that you remember.
No, not that I have such vivid memories of Notre Dame's. Some nice moments in the Crossroads Classic, mostly just blown leads in the Crossroads
There's
Classic.
a Mike Bray book on your desk. Did you know that?
Yeah, here.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
you're right.
yeah, here at Radio 1. I'm just making
now
sure.
That I think about it, I think I have one at home as well.
Just sitting
I
there,
love Mike Bray, but boy, did he need to go. All right, moving on to the hardwood. Speaking of Mike Bray, I don't know when the Pacers will play the Hawks again, but it's the Clippers tonight. That will be Paul George in his return. What do you think the boo level will be for the Paul George meter? Has it lessened over the years?
It's got to have lessened quite a bit, right? The Pacers just need to focus on
Don't
not
they need
booing
Paul
him. They
George?
just need to win it. Yeah, they just need to win a game. Plus, he was a name that's been brought up in the offseason when he becomes a free agent that maybe, you want to take one more swing at it. It could be a guy that you bring in. I'm going to say it's lessened. I'm going to say it's lessened quite a bit, and you're going to get just a small spattering of, spattering or smattering of booze? That's all you're going to get. That's all you're going to get.
I believe 45 for Paul last year inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
They've won 7 in a row.
36 in his last 2 appearances here. Yes, they have won 7 in a row. Slight favorite tonight. Tyrese Halliburton questionable with a knee contusion. As we've talked all morning long, this is a look in the mirror week for the Pacers. They are 13-11 now on the season. Their first 3-game losing streak. And a welcome back at home. Think about this, Andy. This is their first home game since that Boston quarterfinal knockout or play-in tournament. Think about how long that seems. First home game since they beat the Celtics in the quarterfinals of the play-in. It's only 2 weeks. It seems like eons ago.
No, it seems like a long time ago, and that's basically what Carlisle was saying was, boy, we've been on the road. Again, people are not crushing you for the Minnesota loss. They will crush you to losing to Washington. All right, 30-13, that's the final Saturday as the Steelers walk into Lucas Oil, get smacked around in the second half. The Colts 30 unanswered points. A big part of that, DJ Montgomery coming in the game when Pittman goes down. He has a drop touchdown, comes back, makes the touchdown catch. Here's Steichen postgame on his wide receiver.
He's been working his tail off, in the scout team. When he was on scout team all year, he just made plays and plays and plays. And it's like, we got to get this guy up on the active roster. Obviously, he'd love to have that one back, but then he gets another opportunity and makes a big play and gets a touchdown. Credit to him, credit to Reggie, getting him ready to roll. And it was good. It was good. A lot of guys had to step up today. And the preparation that goes into it, obviously their position coaches getting them ready to go, knowing what to do, knowing the plan, and going and executing it.
Again, Michael Pittman is in concussion protocol. We'll see if the extra day does help him up. Seems to be in good spirits, so that is good news on that end. But again, a 5-step concussion protocol he'll have to pass through. It is Sunday, 1 o'clock in Atlanta. What did I see this early line at? Colts by a couple? Is that right?
Oh, let me look it up. And whenever you play in Atlanta, you know what everyone always says? How they have a
Magic City.
How they besides Magic City, how they have a Chick-fil-A in the stadium.
Magic City wings overrated.
That you can't get to.
You've had them?
Have you had them?
I dabbled.
What? When was this?
Wait a minute.
How is this? This is breaking news.
We can talk about it offline.
Oh, what? What kind of?
Again, it's not the Hawks on the schedule. We're talking about the Clippers.
But it is
and
the
they're
Falcons.
talking about the Falcons.
It is the Falcons.
Well, yeah,
2.5 is the spread right now. Indy's favored by 2.5 and over under a 44.5.
Speaking of Atlanta, don't we get an usher for the Super Bowl this year? Is that
Do
right?
we?
Yeah.
Halftime?
Uh-huh.
Well, ATL action there.
Is that someone that people care about?
I think Matty Bowen is happy about
My
it.
sister-in-law likes him.
The Falcons are reeling, to say the least. They just lost to the Panthers. Even if they went out, they still need help, which is kind of crazy if you look at where the NFC South is from a record standpoint. We'll see about Desmond Ridder. Arthur Smith was non-committal to Desmond Ridder after the game yesterday. And lastly, Tom Allen landing in Happy Valley, and financially, Andy Sweeney is a pretty good gig.
Yeah,
he keeps that $15.5 million on the buyout, which was front loaded. And what did you say? Did you say north of $1 million? I didn't see any figures.
I haven't seen any figures,
Okay,
but I mean, if you're a defensive coordinator in the Big Ten at a place like Penn State, I mean, I got to think he's going to be making $1.5 million or so, right? I mean, that's kind of like the going rate for a defensive coordinator. Easily over $1 million. To me, it says he get closer to 1.5, 1.6, something like that.
We do not get Indiana Penn State on the schedule, unfortunately, in
That's
2024. Tom Allen replacing Manny Diaz, who left to go to Duke. And as we talked about 10, 15 minutes ago, for those that missed the news, certainly a very melancholy end to this morning checkdown. The passing of Eric Montross, obviously the LN product, who played at North Carolina and in the NBA, 52 years old, diagnosed with cancer back in the spring, had just remarkable philanthropic efforts in the Chapel Hill area towards cancer research, in particular pediatric cancer research, diagnosed in March.
It's unbelievable.
And died on Sunday.
That's terrible.
Absolutely.
It's too young.
Awful, awful news. Father of three, Eric Montross, passing yesterday. We'll be back. Wake Up Call, KB and Andy.
Guys, solve your ED today with an intimacy guarantee. Only
I ask this simply because Dak Prescott was not very good last night. The Bills winners, also not a great thing for the Colts. You really wanted the Cowboys to keep going. They just ran the football, 266 yards on the ground for the Bills. You may wonder why I bring it up, KB. Well, let me ask you something. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Who right now is the MVP of the NFL? I mean, Dak Prescott.
I've got a soft spot for non-quarterbacks. So
you go Tyreek Hill.
What about Christian McCaffrey?
Okay. So to me, it's McCaffrey, Purdy, Jackson, Tyreek Hill, Dak Prescott. Does it come from those five if I made you choose right now? Again, 2 weeks left in the season.
Probably accurate. That's probably a good rundown. You'd have to extend. Again, I'm not saying MVP, but I do think Myles Garrett's had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably where the list is. And honestly, isn't that Monday Night Football, Christmas Day night? That's Ravens 49ers, right?
Is that what it is? That could be a big one. Yeah.
Both one seeds, both MVP favorites, I would assume, in Vegas if you looked at the odds. Yeah, so we get, looking ahead to this weekend, we'll get the Thursday nighter. I think it's Saints-Rams. Saturday, you're going to have a couple of important Colts impact playoff games. I want to say the Bills play Saturday.
You have the Bills at Chargers and Bengals at Steelers. That's your Saturday matchup.
Steelers now.
So I mean, you do. To me, yeah, you need the Bengals to lose the game. Yeah.
You got to shift your thinking a little bit there. Obviously, the Chargers, the Bills are probably going to be a double-digit road favorite in that one. And then Sunday, you'll have your normal slate. And then Sunday's Christmas Eve, Monday, Christmas Day, you'll get 3 games. I took a brief look at the schedule. I don't think really any of those have Colts impact on them. Maybe the Raiders Chiefs Monday.
Raiders Chiefs
have to win out, and they would need a miracle.
Well, you have 3 games, and obviously
some good games, right? But not Colts impact.
There's one good game. The Ravens Niners is the only good game. The other games: Raiders Chiefs, Giants at Eagles for the yearly beatdown there at Lincoln Financial. The Giants going to get smoked in that game. That's a great 4:30 game. That's great. Christmas. Merry Christmas. And then on the coaching side, with Steichen, D'Amico Ryans, and Kevin Stefanski. I'll give you one other name just to throw in there who won't be coach of the year, but I would throw him in there. I think he's a great coach, and I could never wear my hair the way that he does. Sean McVay. They've won 4 out of 5. They beat the Commanders up yesterday. They had the Saints, Giants, and Niners. The Rams very much in the postseason contention. I just think he's a good coach. I'm not exactly sure if anyone thought. I mean, they were playing for Caleb Williams this year, were they not? Remember those conversations?
Sure.
That they were playing for nothing, and they go out and they very well could sneak in to the postseason. If they were in the NFC South, they probably would be. Do we want to dive into our headlines?
Let's do our fan headlines from the weekend.
Extra, extra! Read all about it!
I can't read it. There's no words on it.
I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world tonight.
Ripped from the headlines of the newspaper.
We'll do it live.
Post-game headlines.
Thing sucks.
All right, it is 5 words or less. Mark Dykton fires off the tweet at the final gun after Colts games, and you give your raw reaction, 5 words or less, to what you just witnessed. Boy, I'll tell you what, the fact that you had a guy named Trey Sermon go off, you had people getting real preachy leading into Sunday. How about this one here from Scotty? And this is a combination on both running backs. The good son sermon preach.
That's a reach.
No, that's not a
I like
reach.
it.
I mean, maybe I pronounced it in a different way instead of Tyler Goodson. That's good son sermon preach. I mean, come on, it's a Christmas season.
Yeah, it is. I like it. Jim says, Colts stymie the steel curtain. I like that one.
Kurt cleans up Kevin's a little better. It says, Saturday sermon cures the curse. I like that one. My personal favorite was from Tyler, who said, Maserati Mitch suffers blown engine.
That was very good.
Boy, he's bad. Their offensive, the Steelers, they don't need to get rid of Tomlin, but they have to change who they are offensively, or they don't. I don't care what the Steelers do. They can be a bad team for all I care. They can win 8 games.
Pickett was doing a little better, but still.
Just their philosophy. They have good players, or at least what we think are good players on that offensive side of the football. My God.
It's funny when I switched my pick from Colts to Steelers midweek. I go, the only reason I'm giving pause to myself is I think Trubisky really stinks. gosh, he really stinks.
Yeah,
I mean, he had some throws.
He's just bad
in that game that he had open guys.
Yeah, he did.
It totally changed that early portion.
Yeah, the Freiermuth one, the one the first half is absolutely one to talk about.
There was the one where it's like they converted what was like 4th and 13, and he converted it and had a nice dime pass to, I think it was Deontay Johnson. The very next play, he airmailed it into the interception.
Yeah. He had Pickens wide open there.
Yeah.
And airmailed that one. Greg goes simple here, but he's darn right with how much the attrition happened yesterday or Saturday. Greg just simply says next man up. I know it's cliche, but he's darn right with down your starting quarterback, top 2 running backs, wide receiver 1, right tackle 1.
Nick says ran the damn ball.
Yeah, it's not run the damn ball. That is past tense, baby. Ran it.
Dan said Steelers, terrible like their towels. I would agree with that one, too.
A lot of people fix the special teams. Listen, we talked about it earlier. It's not a bad take, or you're not being a bad fan to be worried a little bit about the special teams. The last couple games has been pretty bad.
If I was, special teams is obvious. The other thing I might nitpick from Saturday, Andy, I thought your rookie corners looked like rookie corners at times. Jalen Jones, Juju Brents, we did see Juju back in the lineup, played every snap but 2. So
that's a lot more than I thought he was going to play, by the way.
I thought he'd be in that third corner package, but still, they were in that nickel a whole lot. Again, I thought, miscommunication on the touchdown from Jalen Jones and Kenny Moore on that pick play there. You had a couple penalties. Again, coverage I didn't think was outstanding. Now, the good news is, again, I don't think you're going to be challenged. I mean, aren't the Falcons like Drake London and nobody else?
Yeah,
from a wideout
Drake
standpoint?
London didn't have a look. It was terrible rain, but he didn't have a look until the third quarter. I mean, no, they're a running
Kyle
team.
Pitts has just been a total non-factor based off where he was drafted.
Oh, sure. No, he was going to revolutionize the sport, the position of tight end, and everything else. And I don't even know whether, to blame him or not. We're making fun of him, but I don't know if that's the case or not. I mean, there have been some bad quarterbacks. Their quarterback situation has not been good. Last one here. Kurt says Saturday sermon cures the curse. I like that.
I said that one.
Oh, did you say that one?
Yeah, after Kevin botched that first one.
Oh, I didn't botch it. I was just trying to emphasize the good son here in the Christmas season.
It's a little wordy.
Now, when I read that one, I thought immediately of Jeff Saturday. I got to be honest with you guys.
Oh, did you hear his little pardon my take interview about that was interesting.
I don't,
What did he say?
Maybe I should try to fire in that audio.
I just don't have the energy to go to Jeff Saturday audio right now.
We can save it for tomorrow if you'd like.
Well, I'm like, let's save it for the off season. Like, why do I need to hear from him?
Like, what was he just talking about how it was difficult
last year
and
the circumstances,
how it came about?
They were going to go 0-8, and
right, the same thing that he said. We played other sound like
during the
that.
bye week.
It's whatever.
Right now, I think you celebrate Shane Steichen, and I don't. I like Jeff Saturday a lot.
Don't want to go down that road again.
No, but I mean, as interim head coach, it didn't work out. I don't need to hear, reasons why a full year later, all of that. It didn't work out.
The Colts made the right decision. That's all that matters here.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like Saturday. It's like no one's really blaming him. No one does he want another job or something? Does he want to be a head coach? Because no one's no Colts fan here is like, oh, I think differently of Jeff Saturday now, as a player. No one feels that way. Plus, no one is like, okay, now I can't hire Jeff Saturday as a head coach. No one feels that way about him. They're more confused why Jim Irsay did what he did. The story is about Irsay hiring who he hired, right? Not even what Jeff Saturday did while he was here.
I need Jeff Saturday's butt cheeks as well as anybody.
Now, am I missing something here with Tom? And I'm probably showing I'm 34, but at times I can act like I'm 64. Tom goes, hey, the Pacers are in VR tonight. Is that virtual reality on Oculus?
Okay, yeah, the Oculus is like the big goggles that you can wear, right?
Okay, so he's
you
asking,
strap your phone to goggles and you watch it that way.
He's asking if we've tried it. Very cool way to watch the game live. Feels like you're right there watching from the front row. So walk me through this. This is literally going to be like I'm sitting there and, whatever. I'm trying to think of people that sit front row. What's the Gamebridge guy's name?
It's like you got the Jake Query seats,
I was about to say, what about Jake?
I
thought that's the joke you were going
Steven
to.
Rails for the minority owner, or Dan Towers from Gamebridge.
I thought you literally were setting up the Jake.
Okay, yeah.
I couldn't see Mark, but we were feeling. We were feeling the same thing there. Okay, so I've never done this before. I would
so it
like
just simply
to.
Feels like you're front row.
Yeah, that you're right there in the action. Yeah, I've never wore any of these goggles. I don't know anyone who has them. I have to be honest. They're expensive.
I think I got them free with like 2 phones ago, and I tried it, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Maybe the technology's gotten better.
So
yeah, it was very
dumb,
weird.
Mark. Does this mean there's a special camera at the game specifically for tonight?
Yeah, so like from what I've gathered is like, yeah, there's a camera that will strictly be for the Oculus viewers, and then it'll be like, I don't know if your hands will be shown, but yeah, you'll see like 3D images of the players, and it'll probably show live stats for each of them and all that stuff. So
remember they tried 3D. Remember, especially ESPN tried it. They put out the 3D the TVs and everything like that, and you could wear the goggles.
Yeah,
I almost got into that, but we decided against it. Remember, you could make the choice: do you want a 3D TV or not? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't think this technology is going to stick, and it didn't stick. But I guess it's something like this, to where if you have this Oculus goggles, this headset, now it's expensive. I think those are about $300, Mark?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's pricey. What I don't know is, and somebody could help me, I don't know what is offered, like as programming. It's something that, I wouldn't mind buying into, but do I get one Pacer game a year, right? Do I get one NFL game a year? If I had an entire, layout, I might consider it.
Okay, so Tom has chimed in here. Tom, thank you so much for the info. He goes, if you have an Oculus, you can watch the game on the Stadium X app. They have different scheduled games once a week on there, he believes. He goes, this will be the 3rd time the Pacers have been on it this year. Next Pacers game is in Utah, January 15th.
Okay.
That is interesting. Now, at times this year, when I've watched the Pacers play defense, I've thought I've had beer goggles on.
That does kind of. I'm looking at a video. I'm looking at a video of like a Lakers game in Oculus, and it does look kind of like beer goggles.
Really?
And there's also like virtual people in front of you. I'd like, sit down. Don't I have front row with the Oculus? Why do I have virtual people sitting in front of me?
We'll do it one final time here. Wake up call, KB and Andy.
Head to the fan contest page and enter for your
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
ESPN has a couple numbers out about playoff numbers with the Colts winning on Saturday. Just a fun note for everyone hating on the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, they were the 6th seed going in to the game in Lucas Oil. They are now the 12th seed. That's how quickly it could change in just one weekend. Before we get to those numbers, though, KB, we have done a bad job. We should have done this earlier, but here we are. We have a family 4-pack, right, to Butler basketball tonight.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, excuse me.
Well, you can look at that way. I choose to look at it as we are rewarding those that have stuck with us.
Fair enough.
Throughout the show. Thad Matta joining us tomorrow at 9 a.m., so we're going to give away another 4-pack tomorrow morning, and that is the Big East opener. And I'm going to probably stop there. The trivia question for the 4-pack is this, 317-239-1070. Can you name, I haven't even asked the question, and Mark is already fielding questions, or fielding calls. Name the head coach of Butler's opponent tomorrow night.
That's all we're going to give you.
He beat Notre Dame on Saturday in overtime. Was not happy about it. The Irish could not defend on the final possession of regulation.
Basketball bennies, basketball insiders, they love this guy. You would agree with that, right?
They do. So Thad Matta and company again tomorrow, 6:30 tip over at Hinkle. And we'll have pretty much, we look like a nice show tomorrow. Rick Carlisle scheduled for 8, Thad Matta at 9. Michael Grady, apologetic for not joining us on Friday. He's scheduled to join us tomorrow to close out the show.
Yeah, looking at these, I think it's Seth Walder, I believe. Yes, that's who it is. Seth Walder of ESPN, kind of a numbers guy there at ESPN. He put this out about 5 minutes ago. Just saw it during the commercial break. The Colts are up to, this is the ESPN metrics, okay? They're up to a 54.8% chance to make the playoffs, and what they do is they have each seed, what the percentage is of the Colts making that seed. So, for instance, there is a 0.9% chance that the Colts could end up as the 2 seed in the AFC playoffs. Obviously, the 7 seed, where they're at right now, they have the best chance at 15.8% chance to make the playoffs as a 7 seed. The 6 seed, they have a 14.2% chance. And then, KB, you mentioned, I wish I could go back and look at what this was actually last week because of the last couple weeks and because of the loss by Jacksonville last night. There's now an 11.6% chance that the Colts end up as the 4 seed going into the playoffs. I found that interesting. Again, there's still the great chance there, 49% chance Jacksonville wins the AFC South and ends up being the 4 seed, but that number has went up. It's now 11.7% chance, but a 55% chance that the Colts make the postseason.
Yeah, I want to get a little bit more into the playoff chances, scenarios, odds here, either tomorrow or certainly in the coming days. Basically, you have a pathway, as you just pointed out, to the AFC South. You're going to still need help from Jacksonville, but you certainly have a path. And Trevor Lawrence, now in concussion protocol, exiting last night. And then wild card wise, yes, this week in Atlanta, it matters. Next week against the Raiders matters a little bit more, but neither of these 2 games compares at all to what week 18 against the Texans could look like for this team. Right now, it's like a 60% difference, win or loss, for the Colts and their playoff chances. Loaded show, recapping a whole lot of Colts info. That is what we did today's show. Mark, we got a winner.
Congrats to Chris.
Chris!
Good job, Chris.
Mark, shoot me a text on that email.
I will.
Name for Chris. We'll fire that away. Again, 4-pack of tickets we'll do tomorrow as well to Butler in Georgetown. Pacers and Clippers tonight, 7 o'clock. Andy Sweeney, that line, Clippers a slight favorite.
Yeah, it's 2.5. I think it's remained there.
Is that a Halliburton's out? Rising line?
I mean, don't you have to think if he were to miss, the line would go up even more in the next few hours? I hate to do this. I'm just heavy on the Clippers in this game tonight. I am. I'm heavy on the Clippers tonight. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see if Halliburton plays with that bruised left knee as well. Oof.
Yeah, again, Andrew Nembhard, Jalen Smith still out, but for Tyrese Halliburton right now, he is questionable with that knee contusion. It'll be coming up on Wednesday. Hornets back-to-back in Memphis, and then the Magic. That is the week for the Pacers. Everybody have a great Monday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
93.5 and 107.